Hello, guys.
Welcome back
to Untethered Minds.
to Untethered Minds.
I was waiting for you to sing it.
No, I'll just do like a grudge voice on
Oh, perfect.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are talking into the world again, so
Yeah.
it's okay. Scary is
Untethered Minds.
Untethered
Welcome
Minds. It's so hard making intros.
Yeah.
Truly.
Oh, speaking of, are we putting a new intro on this song? I think we are. If we put a new intro on it, hopefully you liked it. The music, the song.
We
intro
are,
song,
yeah. The plan is when this goes up, it will have a new intro. New year, new me. So
yeah.
that's...
Yeah. Yeah, so I hate saying resolution because everyone's like, oh, resolution.
Yeah.
I did see that one meme one time, and I thought it was hilarious where the guy was like, I'm going to open a gym called Resolutions. After the first month, it turns into a bar.
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But my goal for 2024 is to be unapologetically me. And I don't mean be a jerk or douche to anybody, but no, just... be strong in my morals, my values, and not really care what other people say. And if they're coming at me with some crazy stuff, just laugh at them and say, haha, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Find Jesus, and then just kind of walk away.
Jesus loves you. Have the day you deserve. It's going to be my new line.
So
have the day you deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think unapologetic is key at this point in time.
Well, right?
What do you got to lose?
I mean, we might not have much time left. I mean, I don't want to be like doomsday, but
you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
If they want to get all this stuff done by 2030, I mean, they're gonna have to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And with it being election year, it's just kind of. I mean, everyone knows crazy stuff happens during election years, regardless of what side of the fence you're on.
Right.
So
the newest theory,
that
scares the crap out of me. I have to bring this up because. It scares the living crap out of me, is that Ron DeSantis has dropped out, Vivek Ramaswamy has dropped out,
and now it's just going to be Nikki Haley still running.
Nikki Haley. And so what happens if Trump does get indicted and go to jail? Not that I believe it'll happen, but like, what if? And then the only person left is Nikki Haley on the Republican ticket, because there's no way that Democrats are going to win. But Nikki's like a Democrat
People
plan
can
anyways.
re-enter as candidates. People can re-enter as candidates.
Yeah. But will they at that point?
Well, yeah. If there's no Trump, then it's an open playing field.
Yeah.
It's open playing field.
I guess.
And then I would say probably Vivek or DeSantis have the best shot.
Yeah.
No one likes Nikki Haley. The only reason her numbers are where they're at is because the DNC is pushing her so much. She's horrible. Yeah.
So on a completely different note as well, we were just talking about this, and I'm like, you know what? This is worth mentioning, I think. We were talking to our guest on this episode, who we'll talk about in just a second here. But we were talking to him saying, like, we've only been able to do so much. Like, we've literally been married for 6 months, been together for a year and a half in total.
Right.
Whatever that's been.
Yeah, we were just saying we started this 4 months after meeting.
Yeah. We had launched a podcast by January 3rd, like first episode out January 3rd of last year, and we met on August 2nd of the year before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
That's a 4.5 month, not even 4.5 months. Right?
Well,
it's just
when you know what you want.
Yeah. But it's just been like a year and a half, and it's been very quick, but also felt very long. Like, I can't believe we've only been together that long.
Right.
It's kind of wild. It's very wild. But yeah, so fun fact about us. We're still newlyweds. In fact, we're having an actual wedding next month. Finally.
Yeah.
I'm so over weddings. Tavis is over me talking about it, so. But yeah, we'll officially do the wedding. And then we are free birds, and we'll have all the time in the world to put out content.
Yeah.
And
and with it being at the end of the year, holidays, your birthday, and then now the wedding, it's been a lot.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of stuff already loaded in the pipeline that we're going to start pushing out. So hopefully by the end of February, it's going to be consistent like it used to be, where it was at least one full episode a month,
Right.
with tons of content coming out of it.
Yeah.
We're also going to be setting up bonus content on Patreon, different little episodes that aren't the typical kind of episodes that we do, I guess, or the conversations that we typically have. So,
and then maybe we'll mess around with video too.
With video.
Again.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, a lot of stuff we want to do. We're working with more people this year in our space.
Yeah.
Collaborating
a
more,
lot.
which takes more time, more energy, more everything. Yeah. And then, as we always say, we work full-time jobs, multiple jobs. Yeah. Have a family, have a house.
This is the year that we make this the full-time job.
We have an 80-pound puppy.
Yeah. And growing.
Do we ever? Yeah. Lots going on in our house. But it is all beautiful and wonderful and great. Thanks to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I mean that in all seriousness. I'm just tired.
Maybe redo that. That was really cheesy.
I know. It was supposed to be really cheesy.
All right. I don't know if it's
He's like,
too
you're
cheesy.
embarrassing yourself. And I'm like, I know.
It's
I
okay.
know. Onward and upward. We've been at it for
Wayward
a
son.
Don't get me singing. So in this last episode, part 1, we talked a lot about
food consumption. We did talk about the bugs.
Agriculture. Yeah. We talked about the disasters last year, like oil spills and hazardous materials.
Fires.
Yeah, a little bit on fire. But yeah, it just kind of started scratching the surface as far as like what's going on. I mean, big pharma, like just go listen to it, honestly. There's so many topics we covered. But today we are talking about manufactured weather and air quotes, natural disasters.
Yeah. Direct energy weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chemtrails.
Yeah. Cloud seeding.
Yeah.
We learned so many different like terms and things. This stuff is really mind blowing. And so we recorded an amazing 2 hours worth of content.
And honestly, it would have just kept going.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because there's so much information.
Yeah. Our friend Spenser from Florida, Spenser with an S, popped in earlier this evening.
The C is an S.
Yeah, the C. Well, yeah.
There's some people out there going to be like, Spenser spelled with an S.
We have to make sure they go to the right page. Spenser, SPNSER from Florida. Yeah. He joined us for, like I said, 2 hours, and the amount of knowledge in this man's brain.
Yeah, it just flowed out of him.
To just a different level than what we do.
Right.
Very scientific, but in a way that it's so easy to understand. And the dots connect.
Layman's terms.
Holy crap.
Very much so.
Yeah. So much good stuff from Spenser. Oh my gosh. So let's get into everything that we would like to discuss first, kind of set up the conversation, because it gets a bit deep. I think there's certain reference points and things that we want to hit prior, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Right.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Why don't we?
Let's do it.
To kick it off, there was a lot of fires last year. They were all over the place.
Canada, California.
Oh, yeah.
Maui, obviously.
Yeah, Canada, Australia, the United States Environmental Protection Agency. They have quoted that wildfires appear to increase every year since the 1980s, so it's continuously getting worse. But this last year we saw Maui, obviously, on August 8th. If you want to know more about that, we have a whole Maui episode. Is it just one episode? Yeah.
We just did one. Yeah, it's a little over an hour.
Yeah, it was a lot, though. So we do have a full episode if you want to learn more about that. But this horrific fire killed 100 people, destroyed more than 2,000 buildings, and displaced 12,000 people. Experts estimate it will cost $5.5 billion to replace the structures that were exposed to the fires. Honestly, and I was looking this up today, trying to get an update on missing people and the death count and everything. There hasn't been a single update since November of 2023, which I thought was kind of not good. We don't have any numbers, so that's interesting. Investigators are still studying how the fire began, apparently. They're thinking that heavy winds whipped up by a powerful hurricane passing south helped the flames spread quickly.
Which is the same
I'm
story
rolling my
they've
eyes.
already been saying since the beginning.
Yeah. Same BS that they've been talking about since the very beginning of it all. Again, watch our episode. We really go into it there. But at this point in time, there were like 5 really big takeaways from everything that happened in Maui. There's survivors who still need stable housing. And the thing that's so screwed up and plays into this Agenda 2030 whole thing is that a lot of people need like short-term rentals right now.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the counties themselves in Maui have never been successful at like setting up short-term rental, like apartment complexes, like things like that. They've never had any luck with it. So the politicians have come in and said, oh, don't worry. Federal government's got you. We'll set these up. We've got plenty of money in the budget. We'll help you get these short-term rentals up and running. So land grabbing has begun,
right?
Even more than it already was,
right.
From day 2.
Well, and they already had it all planned out what they wanted to build in that area
right.
and all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, why are you going to make blueprints of what you want to do if there's already occupants there?
Right. Because they don't care.
Right.
The occupants don't matter. And now they're going to make more money off of those people because they're going to be building all these complexes. It's the whole like, oh, let the government step in and save you.
Right.
They put you in these impossible positions.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I know.
Most dangerous words. I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yep. They are also facing a long-term housing crisis. Even before the fire, Maui faced a severe housing crisis. Maui needs to rebuild its lost housing stock and dramatically expand its supply of affordable housing. Hawaii has the highest median home value in the nation, as well as the 4th highest level of homelessness. I didn't realize that. Since 2000, Maui has experienced over 300% price growth in homes. Many locals working service jobs, particularly in tourism, do not make incomes that can meet such high housing costs. And in Maui County, more than 50% of renters are cost-burdened, paying over 30% of their income on rent, and nearly 30% are severely cost-burdened, paying over 50% of their income on rent.
So, do you remember that one guy when we were at that resort in Maui that my dad was like talking to every single day, right? He graduated, got his degree, all that stuff, went to work in the field on the island.
Yeah.
And he makes way more money working at the resort taking care of guests.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't even work in the field that he got his degree in.
Yeah.
That's what it's come down to.
Tourism.
It's nothing but tourism now. 100% tourism. You can't survive there unless you work in the tourism field in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
You just can't do it.
No, you can't. And their tourism has gone down. Right. So now even that's not.
Well, it's going to be down for a couple of years until they build something big and shiny for everyone to come visit.
Right.
Which they're going to do.
Yeah. The other need is that infrastructure is really bad.
None of those resorts burnt down. Just the neighborhoods.
Yeah. Funny how that happens. Just all the small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All the people who wouldn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to housing and property destruction, Maui experienced severe damage to its critical infrastructure. More than 2,200 water service lines were damaged. Rebuilding all of the water infrastructure could take years and cost as much as $80 million. Beyond restoring clean and safe water, Maui's water infrastructure demands modernization to enhance future resilience and capacity. So, the island just sounds like it's falling apart. Right. Basically. And then unemployment has risen as tourism has dipped. So more than 800 businesses and the major tourist hub of Lahaina were impacted. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the unemployment rate was 6.2 in November 2023, up from 2.5 before the fire, largely due to the decline in tourist travel to the island. Prior to the fire, tourism contributed to about 40% of the island's GDP. Yeah. But businesses that serve tourists have had to cut back on staff with fewer visitors. So while bringing back tourism will support employment and economic activity, with a limited stock of housing and hotel units, there's tension between housing survivors and providing lodging for tourists.
Right.
So,
Well, and that's the thing. There should be no debate. It should be for the residents.
Right. No, but it's not going to be.
Right.
Because they're not paying as much as...
Because money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then on top of all that, everybody still left there are dealing with trauma, you know?
Yeah.
Survivor's guilt.
It's really insane.
Yeah.
Like, and it was swept under the rug. Just completely swept under.
Yeah.
Like, we discussed it for like 2-3 months, and then boom, Israel.
Right.
And then now all of a sudden, no one talked about it anymore.
Yeah.
It's just gone. And like, I've seen videos, like, the fences are still up, and they haven't demolished anything. The houses are still whatever they looked like the day after.
That's nuts.
Isn't that crazy?
It's nuts.
What are they doing?
Honestly, I don't know. Some land in the upcountry in Maui is still on fire, too.
What?
They're still putting out little fires that are, like, in the ground.
There's fire in the ground?
Organic material underground continues to smolder and occasionally reignite hotspots. They said the situation underscores the importance of calling 911 if you spot flames or see smoke. Over the last 2 months in particular, the agency said there have been numerous small fires and hotspots in upcountry Maui. When organic material, heat, and oxygen come together, tiny smoldering underground fires continue to burn. These small hotspots are undetectable until they emerge from underground, producing smoke, flames, and heat at the surface. And if there's yard waste, tree trimmings, anything like that around, they'll set fire and it'll spread.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So that's happening as of January 17th of this year. So just a few days ago, the House of Representatives were talking about how they're going to step in and start doing more short-term rentals and how it's really important to them. I'm like, of course it is. You're trying to get your paws on more land and more money.
Right.
Oh, yeah. This is the other thing. There is rain-washed, fire-related contaminants that have now made their way into the ocean off Lahaina, and it's like left the waters around there looking like brown and muddy and disgusting. And so it said that they're seeing really high turbidity numbers like they've never seen before. So these are like really bad things that are going into the ocean that are polluting the water further. It's toxic runoff from the 2,170 acres of burned land. So that's good. It's going right into their coral reef ecosystem there.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
It's going to kill all that.
Yep. It says, although the Environmental Protection Agency has applied a soil stabilizer to scorched properties in Lahaina and Maui County, they have placed absorbent material and other pollution controls around storm drains and along Front Street. It's highly likely that some level of contaminants found in the ash, things like arsenic, lead, and volatile organic compounds, have entered the ocean. So, that's good. The hit to their economy is pegged at $1.9 billion throughout 2024.
I thought they were all saying the water is sacred and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Until it's not their property anymore because it's all burned to the ground and nobody's there to take care of it. Yeah. So the biggest
water
theory...
is sacred. We can't use it to put out the fires, but let's contaminate it.
Yeah. These people don't care at all. The biggest theory to all of this, and we talk about this a lot with Spenser coming up here, is direct energy weapons, DEWs, DEW.
All the blue stuff.
Yeah, yep. We realize that, our country alone spends $1 billion annually on this research, so they're definitely using it, which is really scary. These direct energy weapons are lasers and high-powered microwaves. They're saying that they may soon be used to defend against drones and rockets. Mm-hmm. They're being used in submarines right now. Yep. So it's part of this new wave of warfare, basically.
Well, and there's all different types of direct energy weapons because most people don't know what does that mean. Mm-hmm. Right, so there's so many different types. You have obviously lasers, right? Then you have microwave direct energy weapons, and then you have frequencies. So there's so many different types of direct energy weapons out there, and our government is using what you said $1 billion to look into these things.
$1 billion
a year.
DoD.
And really think about it, that doesn't sound like that much considering they sent $75 billion to Ukraine.
Nothing sounds big in comparison to Ukraine. Yeah, but they're spending the money, and they have been for a long time.
So I don't know if y'all have seen that clip, but basically breaking it down, that it would cost about $20 billion to end homelessness in the United States. And with them sending $75 billion, we could have ended homelessness like nearly four times. So if that doesn't show you the government does not care about you, does not care about us, does not care about anyone in this country other than themselves and lining their own pockets, then I don't know what will.
Right. And these direct energy weapons can be used very discreetly because radiation doesn't generate sound and it's invisible outside of our like spectrum of sight. So you'd have no idea. There's theories roaming around and everything that says like Antarctica allegedly has technology within the sphere that like humans can't even conceptualize, and that these can create earthquakes, and Raytheon is making them, and just lots of interesting little rabbit holes. But we do talk about that more in a bit. So
everything's a rabbit hole. Everything's got like 12 different rabbit holes that it spiders off into.
Yeah.
But then they all come back together.
Yeah, it's really nuts. And to understand one, you have to understand all. It's a whole thing.
It's maddening. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And these direct energy weapons are currently stored at the Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico, which is a place of weirdness as well. So I'm not shocked that they're holding all these weapons there. Secretary of the Navy, Carlos del Toro, has recently been coming out about how excited he is about these weapons because of potential submarine threats. This is like the best way to go about those kind of threats. So our Navy's pushing it really hard.
We need the lasers for the submarines.
Yeah. Like, what I said, Austin Powers, it's like the dolphin with the lasers on them. Sharks, that's what it is.
I want sharks with freaking laser beams. Yeah.
That's what that reminds me of. But
then they couldn't get it, so they just got them really hungry sea bass.
Yeah, yes.
That ate the guy's head off.
Yep. So that Maui's kickoff point is where all of this DEW stuff came into focus for Tavis and I.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk a lot about that a little bit later on. But to keep up with the whole fire trend, Canada saw fires really bad. The Northern Hemisphere in the United States got it real bad in 2023. It was the worst wildfire season in history in 2023. Which is really bad. We also had bad fires in Australia. It was the warmest winter on record, followed by a really unusually warm and dry spring. So they were having all these fires. There's a lot of places where farmers and whatnot are saying, like, we're supposed to have snow up to our, like, knees by this point in the year. We don't have any snow on the ground.
Yeah, and here we are in Arizona, like, man, it's way colder than it usually is.
Yeah, we've had like rain for 2 days.
We had a lot of snow up in Flag.
Yeah,
it snowed while we were up there.
It did. Yeah, really odd. Yeah. Washington also had a ton of fires. It was a quote catastrophic wildfire season. Lots of property loss.
And do you remember that clip of the one in Canada starting?
No.
There was like an aerial clip of the wildfires starting in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And it started in like 5 separate spots all at the same time. And then it spread from there. But yeah, it started in 5 different spots.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you just see this aerial view, and you just see the smoke coming up in these different spots, and then it's spreading over time.
Wild.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
They're making way for their smart cities.
They are.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is a big part of this episode is manufactured weather.
Right.
Manufactured weather is huge. And from what we talk about with Spenser, I'm sorry I keep teasing it. I swear it's coming.
Yeah.
It is just the missing link between so many things.
Well, so that's like what you were saying. There's a lot of stuff that we had and we were connecting the dots.
Yeah.
But we're like, okay, but how does this get from here? We know these connect, but how does it get from here? And he's like, oh, here's some information to fill that void.
I'm like, oh, shit, I'm there.
So like for the manufactured weather, chemtrails, all this stuff, I've been talking about that for at least a decade and a half. DEWs, I've known they had it. I haven't really talked about it since Maui, though.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't think that you needed to control the weather before you could use the DEWs.
Yeah.
I never put those two together like that.
No.
I thought they were two separate entities.
9/11 and weather.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He gets into that. Speaking of, we do have a 3-part series on 9/11 if you want to check that out. And that one's all facts. And if it's our opinion, we'll say it's our opinion or whatever in it. But
we were very
that one is all 100% documented information.
Yeah. That was like our way to get back on TikTok in grace. But they still blocked the videos. But to the manufactured weather point, they're literally doing things like every single day that's changing the weather, whether it's cloud seeding, chemtrails. We talk a bit about HARP and how it necessarily isn't as big of an influence as people might think it is. So that's...
It's not anymore.
Right.
It's still active, but it's not active.
It's only when they want it to be.
Right.
And it's short periods of time.
Yeah.
From what
it's very noticeable when they turn
gathered.
it on.
Yeah. But if you aren't aware, HARP is it's high frequency active auroral research program. Basically, it's used to send a very high power radio signal to the ionosphere, which is an upper layer of the atmosphere that reflects radio waves. So science, yeah. I'm like, that is the most layman terms definition I could find online.
Yeah.
But
science.
Yeah. Basically used to track patterns and change our weather.
Right.
So at least, from what we learned, it's not as useful as it used to be. Mm-hmm. But it is owned by the Air Force.
Yeah.
So take that for what you will. Another big thing that we kind of covered too in terms of natural disasters, like earthquakes have been really strong lately, and earthquakes can also be triggered by DEWs.
Right.
Turkey saw a 7.8 magnitude earthquake on February of 2023, almost a year ago. It's had thousands of aftershocks.
Yeah, thousands.
Yeah. So things are popping off. The weather is an issue. So without further ado, I think we should get into our conversation with Spenser from Florida.
With an S.
With an S. So enjoy this conversation. There's so much information.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
2 hours. Yeah. 2 hours worth of information. And here's the thing. It's like 5 hours worth of information condensed into 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, put it on your Bluetooth speaker, like clean the house, like listen, or like go take a long walk, whatever.
Yeah. Go learn you something.
Yes. So enjoy. Hello, everyone. We are here with a very special guest today. Everybody, meet Spenser from Florida if you haven't already.
Meet Spenser. He's just doing some light reading right now.
Just doing some light reading.
We're going to buy it for every baby boomer in our life is what we've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I gave it to my parents and they loved it. Like, basically all the conspiracy we've all gotten, like from millennials and Gen Z, you can throw the cliff notes at your parents with really graceful deep state encyclopedia book, and they'll be like, there's a gray pope, a black pope, a white pope. It's great.
Amazing. Well, it's great to have you here, Spenser. Welcome to I was going to say channel, but this is a podcast. It's not a YouTube channel. How are you doing? How's life in Florida?
I'm awesome. I'm in Florida. I'm healthy. I've got a very young family. I've got a little one now of my own, and I take conspiracy even more seriously now. Because it matters even more.
Right.
Exactly.
I think that's always been our driving force.
Little more passion and kind of a little more love and compassion and just really intense passion now that I have a little being to take care of and look forward to. But kind of what's happening in Florida is everything is becoming dead and stagnant because of weather modification. Like we don't get the sun. It's no longer the sunshine state. And things have not been the same since 2020. I'm sorry. I don't know about you guys, but I don't get, even if I leave town, it's not the same.
Right.
Yeah. Seems like we stepped into an alternate reality dimension in 2020. Like everything is just
very much
different now. Yeah. So we initially, when we were diving into Maui with everything that happened last August, we found Spenser's content because you were covering it like crazy. The weather modification, DEWs, all of these crazy interesting topics we'll get into. But I just kind of wanted to ask you, like, we're about 6 months out at this point. We've seen all we've seen, all the evidence, everything that happened. Like, what are your thoughts now looking at it?
My thoughts now looking at it is we were completely correct right out of the gate. And even when you're too scared to share because something seems off and wrong, just say, hey, I don't know what's going on, but this doesn't seem right, because you could literally help people these days by something going viral. You know, just podcasts, influencers, all these entities that have tons of followers, and like this stuff spirals from, you know, Instagrams to Facebooks to YouTubes to Telegrams. And when it spirals out of control, it makes a difference. And I've been a part of a big difference where things that I've shared have gone viral in so many areas, and they've been addressed at the scene. And that's somewhere way far away from where I'm at in Florida. And so, you know, looking back at it, we were right. I mean, it's obvious. There was I don't want to, you know, be careful whatever you guys put out when you publish something, direct blank, you know, weapons.
Right.
Oh, we say it all, man. Direct energy weapons, the missing kids. Yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't even cover the missing kids, but for like 2 little posts, because I just knew immediately that there was foul play. Immediately. As soon as there's a fire. We were already experiencing wildfires in Canada. Was that before, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was about a month before.
Yeah.
So I was already flipping out saying there's no way, the timing's impeccable, yada, yada. And so literally the fire is like do weapons, is like weather modification. It all ties in together, and all of these categories are just so intermingled, and I don't think people are getting it. And you guys have covered Agenda 2030 and what's going on. And it was an obvious land grab at this historical location in Lahaina. And they had, you know, you have these lower level housing in this beautiful, magnificent location. And of course, it was part of the smart city agenda.
Right.
I don't. You guys have covered that, and of course, I mean, come on. If you already have the development on a plot plan and surveys and all that, like, and then you just take the people out, take them out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no, a telephone pole fell down.
Yeah.
And there just happened to be 100-mile-an-hour winds coming from a direction they never come from or never should have been coming from. And the hurricane was how many hundreds of miles away?
Right.
Yep.
Where did the winds come from? So, you know, if you guys are wanting to talk to me about weather modification, you know, we found where those winds came from. Did you guys ever figure out where the winds came from?
No. Do tell.
China.
No way.
Yeah, so Jim Lee from Climate Viewer pinpointed it. You know, you had all these theories. You had Matt from Cultivate Elevate was like, hey, look, here's a big giant wind farm over here. What if this wind farm caused this? And I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but, you know, why not look into it? And I just kept looking. That was one of the clues, because I was hard on Hawaii. That's probably why you guys found me.
Yeah.
I was ticked because I knew people were going to die. You know, there's a difference between psyops and engineered stories and headlines and false flags where people are getting hurt.
Right.
And the moment I saw what was going on, I knew for a fact right then and there, if that's what's happening, there's going to be injured humans, and this is a land grab. And I'm already very well versed in that stuff, and I knew that there was going to be most likely foul play involved, because people were questioning the direct energy weapons with those northern fires already. Paradise, California, where were they started, all that stuff. You guys probably have a history with Paradise, California, right? And those California direct energy weapons.
Yeah. We talked about that a little bit on the last episode of this.
Yeah.
I mean, when houses are split in half, the bottom is perfectly scorched, and the trees are squared off around the lot are perfect. When the steel or whatever type of alloy rims are melted, going through the daggum, you know, drains, the storm drains, flowing metal liquid. This is not a fire. No. This is no longer a fire. When your engine block is sitting on the ground, this is no longer just a car fire.
No.
We've got some serious, intense not just heat, but frequencies going on. And, we can get into that a little bit. And, talking about Hawaii, it to me is obviously frequency based. So you guys want to talk about blue? Did you see the frog? Did you guys see the frog?
Yes. Yes. That was how many months after the fact that they found it too. And it's, the frog, there was the dog who was petrified in the street. Yep. All the blue stuff was weird. You can talk further to the blue, because that we covered a little bit, but I think that's an interesting one to dive into. Yeah, remind me to tie this into petrification too, but when it comes to the blue, Maui blue went absolutely viral. I may have been like the first or second person that really called it out exactly what it was, and that's probably why I was going viral. For some reason, I just knew the color schemes. I understood. I was already thinking frequency and posting, hey, this is direct energy. This is frequency related. There's, you have this type of tower over here, next right over here. We've got microwaves over here. This is 100% wherever it's coming from, frequency related. And when you have that, there's always light spectrums involved. And I was well aware. Sorry, I got a flashing screen here. It's driving me crazy.
You're fine.
Seizure warning.
Yeah, I was MK Ultra in myself on your phone. And so soon I kind of knew to look for it. And then when people are like, oh, this blue, here's a shirt, a fabric, come on, a fabric and a fire that when you have melted metal flowing through the storm drains and just feet away from that, blue shirts and, in the rubble, shirts, a car, this car is not, that car is. And immediately when I saw the blues, I'm like, oh, that's not just like one item. That's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5 items. I'm like, okay. When you see absolute physical, like almost like molecular matter destruction crumbled, as well, there's mass missing from these cars. There's actual mass missing, as if it's just decimated, right? But then you have a whole flower pot that's blue sticking straight up. It's like, okay, but what are a lot of flower pots made out of? Ceramic, right?
Right.
I instantly, when I saw the pot, I'm like, oh, if that's ceramic, that reminds me of the toilets from 9/11. 9/11, there was toilets.
Yeah.
There was toilets and rubble, right? So ceramic has reflective properties. There's resonant frequencies of everything. Everything's vibrating. We can get deep physics.
Wow.
I'm not a physicist. I'm just an average Joe that listens to gurus.
Yeah, that's a crazy connection, though. The ceramics.
So, that, and like, I watched a podcast on Tinfoil Hat podcast, Sam Tripoli. The best weather modification podcast I had ever seen was after Maui, and it was with Christopher Gardner and Jim Lee from Climate Viewer, 2 polar opposite mindsets. One's like self-education, the other one's like, I go to academics, and he's a total nerd, loves that stuff, loves to spit the facts, but he's still a rebel. Jim Lee, Climate Viewer, is still a rebel. Like, real academic, they can't stand him. But then Christopher Gardner, he's like a genius, believes in old world and flat earth and all this stuff, similar to me. But they both saw eye to eye on so many things. And they brought up so many points with Maui that helped me understand that a lot more about the destruction that's involved in some of these fires and where they have direct energy weapons. It's not just like you're getting microwaved. Right. You can put something in a microwave and it's not like it just disappears. There's more going on than meets the eye. And, I don't want to get too off topic, but Hawaii, you're asking what I really thought. I think we were all over it early. I think we covered it way harder. When I say we, TikToks, Instagrams, influencers. I dropped something. Then this lady, Bianca, I don't know her. Her name's Bianca on TikTok. Phenomenal with sounds and frequencies. She had she got it. I'm like, oh my gosh, she understands the blue already too. And then you started seeing the people that know that stuff. And then you started seeing little lasers, and they're like, hey, look. And then you have a guy saying, well, I've got a 5-watt laser here. Let me, he started burning some stuff. And then those came out. And I think we were absolutely hit the mark on the head. And there's things that I understood immediately that nobody called out. And I'm like, the sirens. I think I told you guys, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about the sirens, because this was nuts. We were talking about it earlier today. But explain the sirens a little more.
So So when you get into the world of everything's a conspiracy and you want to get like, I won't put earbuds in. Like, you guys are like, do you have earbuds? I'm like, actually, no, I got rid of them because for health reasons.
Yeah.
You know? So I think about Wi-Fi. I try to learn about the Wi-Fi. You know, what gigahertz? Where are we in megahertz? Are we in radio? Is this microwaves, millimeter waves? What is? I was trying to learn fifth generation cellular technology, all that, and so when it comes to the sirens in Maui, not a lot of people talk about it or cover it, but it's really simple. If you have a millimeter wave, which is a microwave, say that's what they're using, most likely is what they're using to microwave an area, and you have a predetermined, it seems like it's predetermined, like they freaking survey where they're going to take out, and it's like, it's almost like they're taking out exactly what they want, and like, oh, nope, that block's owned by so-and-so, we can't hit that, it's got to stop here, then it's got to go around the corner, and then it can start again, and you have a perfect, like, zigzag, because whatever, you know, whatever type of freaking destruction they're using, but when you do this, the sirens cause something called harmonic interference. Imagine hitting a Chinese gong. You know, the big Tibetan gong? You see in the movie, like Kickboxer or something before a match.
Right.
Bong. That type of sound is strong enough. Or the old world bells that we've talked about before, that I've posted about. Matt from Cultivate Elevate. A lot of these old world Tartarian channels love to talk about the bells. It's a big deal. Here's a fun one on that. Henry Flagler donated a church across the street from the Flagler building, or Flagler College in Florida. It's a very, very exotic building. Juan Ponce de Leon Hotel type stuff. Very exotic building, but across from the Flagler building, he donated a church. And the one rule he gave them was they couldn't have a bell. And I know the reason why they couldn't have a bell. That was the one thing. And they had to sign, like that was in contract, because the resonance of his building across the street was that intricate and detailed in the architecture, and he wanted to have a specific resonance and frequency at his location, and all of those old world buildings had that. This is deep stuff, but simply thinking about it with Lahaina, what you have is you have millimeter waves coming in. Millimeter waves can't go through concrete, like a steel wall like I have in front of me, or a concrete block wall very well. That's why they have to have all these antennas everywhere. So our light poles are going to be antennas. They've got to have your Ring doorbell in the front. That's a little antenna. They've got to be able to ping to a bunch of little smart devices to get to you, because they can no longer send these tiny little high capacitance millimeter waves through the walls. That's not how they work. Does that make sense? Interfere.
Right.
So it's not just physical matter that interferes with signals. You can have sounds that are very strong and powerful. Sounds are just, whatever type of wave you have. Sound waves can cause harmonic interference. And so those sirens in Hawaii, some of the most powerful sirens in the world, top sirens in the freaking world. This will like deafen you like craziness. They didn't go off because that would have totally interrupted all of their direct energy weapons. That is why they didn't go off. It's not like, oh, we didn't turn them on just because we want to let people burn, even though that's probably partially true as well. I believe more so those sirens would cause harmonic interference in the entire area, and those signals would not be able, millimeter waves would not be able to be as precise and exact. Harmonic interference, electrical impedance. We got to be careful what you guys post on this recording, but when you can go back to 9/11, there was a storm off the coast before 9/11 the day before. That storm prepped the whole area electrostatically. In Florida, we have hurricanes that come through. Massive hurricane Ian comes through. The day after Ian's gone, all the chemtrails are sucked out of the sky. You cannot help but stare at the sky. It's the most beautiful days ever. The calm before the storm, well, the calm after the storm is unbelievable in Florida. And so it's the same. And so 9/11, they had a storm off the coast. The whole area is prepped electrostatically, so it holds this pure, crisp electrostatic frequency. Then they come in and they do something. They send an ELF wave, extremely low frequency. You guys may know about that audio. Layering stuff like Leave the World Behind, I think just got, the people pulled out the audio file. They showed you, hey, there's a hidden ELF, frequency in the background that you're not realizing you're getting. what we really think happened, mentioning the toilets, the porcelain toilets, still being there, is
Right.
an ELF signal. Gosh, I got to say so many things to get this point across. when you have a fire, it could be masking dew weapons.
Right.
So there's multiple things that can be masking what's really getting that. Like, we have this fire, and they're like, oh, it burnt down, but really they had a freaking dew weapon just scorching lines, exactly
Right.
what they needed, while this fire is coming through that they also started.
Right.
So that masks that. So, like, if you think of 9/11, you have rubble, explosions, bombs. You had, controlled demolitions. You had plane hitting the tower, distracting from what also is most likely happening. And we can tell with the electrostatics of the storm. The edge of that storm controlled the electrostatics. Then they send the ELF frequency in. Imagine like a bass, a deep bass. And what they do is they get the entire physics of the area, connected to this ELF frequency. Everything starts vibrating to it. Imagine the Empire State Building being hit on all sides with speakers, ELF. And now that building is actually resonating to that. And then at the same time, zap, you come in and you hit it with the tertiary frequency, an opposing force, which causes literal mass to just poof, go away.
Yeah.
And that is how you make things go away. Like those cars, when the engine block hits the ground and you've got metal going through the drains, but there's mass missing.
Right.
The fire did not burn that stuff. Where's the mass from the rubble in 9/11? We could be wrong. I don't mind being wrong. But darn it, if we haven't pulled out a lot, and there's a lot of evidence, documentaries.
There's even footage like on 9/11 where you see like a whole bunch of vans on the street, and like every other van is just burnt to a crisp, and the other vans are just completely fine and normal and not touched by anything.
Yeah.
So you physically remember that, right? You visually remember seeing that.
Oh, yeah.
Is that or is that not similar to Paradise, California?
Right. Yeah.
Similar to
Oh, yeah.
Lahaina.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So we're intelligent enough to recognize patterns, but if we've never been taught it in academics, which we're not going to be taught this stuff I'm talking about.
No, not at all.
Never.
This is
The truth.
You know how I know it?
It's the truth.
I know it from Sam Tripoli's podcast, Topher Gardner.
Right.
But I was paying so close attention. I was taking notes. I'm like, oh my gosh, Topher knows exactly what he's talking about. This makes sense. I understood it. And so, again, going back to the blue, the color blue, man, you have an opposing frequency that reflects. Topher also taught, they were talking about Lahaina a little bit. He taught that he has paint, that he makes these buildings that are hurricane proof and disaster proof and EMF proof and things like that. So he has paint that he can make using pyrolyzed carbon mixed in. He makes his own pyrolyzed carbon. He mixes it in, and it has these properties that not only blocks like Faraday cage paint, but it also reflective paints. He shared in that podcast a very expensive but awesome paint that reflects all signals. So everyone's like, oh, I got to go get a blue roof. And Topher's like, you could just use this paint. And you're like, same thing. It's going to do the same thing. Like, something like yellows and whites are more reflective, but like a green and blacks are totally different.
They consume light.
Yeah. So when it came to the blue, it was way too obvious that those things were left behind for a reason. And anybody that understands, the light spectrum and laser versus, it's hard to get into physics-wise because it's not my expertise. But when it's explained to me, and I have it written down, and I have it, I can explain it in layman's terms, kind of like we've been going right now. So yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah.
What you
Well, I was gonna mention too, when we did a whole 3-part series on 9/11 and got like all the little details of it. But I believe they gave them like 2 days to clean up all the rubble, and they didn't let any of it be tested.
Yeah, none of it was allowed to be tested.
And I'm like, I wonder why that is. They're hiding things, clearly.
And they had trackers on all the trucks, too, to make sure they
that we're going
went
in and out of the
straight to the dump. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, 2 days?
Yeah, 2 days.
Remember the rubble?
Yeah.
After that whole thing. Yeah.
Let's think of the size of those buildings.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 days.
Yep. Yeah, they gave them 2 days.
Now I'm hearing again, this is bringing back, my conspiracy memories. It's like, gosh, that is a lot of mass moving. How are you moving that much rubble in 2 days? It's because there's some rubble missing, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, they didn't have much left either. That people saw, from what, witnesses saw, there wasn't much to even be cleaned up.
You can visually picture all the buildings. Like the other one that they don't talk about.
7, yeah.
It's not just two.
Yeah, exactly. All of them.
Or the giant hole in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Perfect missile hole.
Yeah, that also leads into petrification, guys.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah. Speak a little further to that if you can.
Well, I get excited about, the bells because I like the old world stuff. I'm sure you guys have dabbled into Tartaria. I don't care what it's called. I know that there was, more technology and a different civilization that put a little more a beauty into their buildings. They were a lot more connected with frequency and resonance and all that stuff, just looking at the details of all the buildings, the architectural. They're giant electromagnetic structures.
Right.
I'm a big Lost History of Earth and What on Earth Happened by E. Warrenon guy, if anybody's ever seen that in your chat. I'm a big proponent of those, which opened my eyes to these megastructures not being where rich people slept and, put their gold in the basement. They were massive energy structures. They had cisterns in the walls. They had aqueducts coming in and out underneath that turned into the tunnels that everybody uses later on. I think the whole old world had these tunnels, but I'm bringing this up because being interested in the old world and learning that stuff and a lot of history being a lie and cover up and all that, you get into sometimes seeing massive structures that are literal melted old world buildings. Have you guys seen the melted old world buildings at all?
I don't think so.
Oh my God. Ooh, in Arizona, man, Sedona. There's some people with their, what do they call it? Boots on the ground. I was going to call them foots on the ground. Boots on the ground in Arizona. And I can't remember the guy's channel, but he's going around, and it'll blow you guys' mind. You know what Petra looks like when you have these carved, amazing, intricate details into these cliff faces?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, what people are doing when they're digging so deep into the old world, because we're kind of awake, we're thinking of things upside down. It's like, wait a second. That's not erosion. That's a damn quarry. That's an ancient quarry.
Right.
In the desert is the waste from the quarry. Quarry, desert quarry.
Yeah.
We're seeing things like, holy crap, we've been lied to about erosion. We've been lied to about geology. And so even a building that's like melted, petrified. Mm-hmm. And those are awesome. On Facebook, I follow a neat little channel called Melted Brick University. That's a good one. And I myself have found melted bricks in the wild, like not in city, but like in piles of stone and like mountainsides. I've found brick inside them, kind of like melted and drooping, because I know where to look. And I was traveling to Georgia, Tennessee, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go down this rabbit hole now. I see it myself. Like, pull over on the side of the road on vacation, be like, damn it, I just saw that. I gotta go look.
Sorry,
like, oh
kids.
it's a brick. Get your hammer out of the little toolkit, break off a piece of sand. I'm not lying. I mean, I've got stuff here. I've got old world stuff that you can boots on the ground find amazing old world stuff all around you. And then all that spiel goes into petrification. Because these buildings, a lot of these stone formations, or you guys have seen ancient giant trees, right?
Right.
Like Devil's Tower being,
right.
To me, it definitely looks a lot more like a tree stump than hexagonal lava formations going up perfectly.
Right.
So I'm like, no, that's a big old tree stump. Sorry, your academic explanation has got to move to the side for now. It's tree stump until we get a better explanation. So now I believe in petrification that not a lot of people understand, right? I've decided that almost all geology is ancient biology, and it's not me. I thought this 2 years ago when I was learning, becoming this flat earther to this to that, and it's like people think you're crazy. Until I'll sit there at the bar I used to, I don't drink anymore. I used to sit at the pub and be like, all right, meet me at the pub. Let's have a little debate,
Yeah.
If you concede, you buy. If I concede, I'll buy, And
right.
I realized, I'm like, man, I got a niche for smoking people and conspiracy. Because I just taught a NASA engineer what gravity was. You know? Well, they start talking theory of relativity. I'm like, theory?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need a theory. Why are we talking about theories? Let's talk about what it is.
Right.
And it's really fun to get deep into, that stuff's fun for me. I don't like arguing. You don't want an echo chamber, but you also don't want to have a negative argument and all this stuff.
Right.
And my buddy Longo with Old World Florida. Have you ever seen that YouTube channel?
A couple of times. I checked it out after you pointed it out.
Dude, he is such a talented little goober. I call him little. He's like, he's taller than me. He's a, vegan philosopher, loves his astrology and all that. But he makes fun of the geology as biology a little bit because people can get a little crazy with it. Like, I've literally met schizos in the woods in Florida grabbing any old lime rock with holes in it and stuff and being like, look, a mud fossil skull, a giant skull. And I'm just like, okay, now I know why Longo makes fun of it, but there's also, what's the channel? I believe in like half of the stuff. Stellium 7, Stellium 7. That channel on YouTube, there is a rock that he went over that he claims is a heart. And he showed how it is a heart, what hearts look like. It's a petrified heart.
Wow.
And when I tell you guys, if I'm walking on a riverbank and there's tons of rocks and I'm just looking around and I go to grab one, the rock he put up on that screen, I have saved like 20 of them in my life and they all look exactly the same. And they're petrified hearts. And I'm just like, why do I pick up those?
Why are you attracted to those?
Right, like, wait a second. There's thousands of shapes of rocks out here, but there's one particular that he says are like petrified hearts. And for some reason, I can spot them. Say you have a big old bed of rocks. That's naturally the one I picked up because I'm spotting it. And so I'm like, okay, that's a little crazy, but I see the perfect vowels twisted, and it's like, it'll mess with you a little bit. You'll see that. But going from ancient giant trees to that is not a stretch when you see the frog in Hawaii.
Right.
Petrification does not have to happen over millions of years that I don't even believe in.
Right.
If we're going to get biblical, what type of expressed script do we even believe in? At some point you've got to, where's your faith stand? Okay, you're agnostic. I still think carbon dating is BS. I don't think we come from nothing.
Right.
I'm not going to, it's like, you can't just like throw carbon dating. No. We're not talking carbon dating anymore. Everybody knows it's nonsense. We're not talking millions of years just because astrologically it doesn't make sense. It's nonsense. Creation is far too beautiful and divine. There's too many specific frequencies and patterns. Yeah. Golden ratio. Everything is way too divine for everything to come from a little Big Bang millions of years ago. It's just nothingness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It completely disconnects you from feeling important, being important, and having a purpose.
Yeah.
The heliocentrism versus geocentrism.
Right.
And that's where the flat earth actually really resonated with me. And then I'm like looking at the yin yang symbol, and it's like, oh my gosh, everything makes sense now.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I understand physics.
Yeah.
I could listen to Topher Gardner on the Tinfoil Hat podcast. And I'm like, why do I understand everything he just said?
Right? Yeah.
And like you were saying earlier, Ashley, it's because everything ties in together. The petrified frog dog from Lahaina, the frog was literally hard like a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm such a big proponent of petrification can happen over thousands of years, absolutely, or however long you may think it is, whether your interpretation of scripture is this long, 8,000 years, or even whatever, 12, 15, whatever, wherever you're at, say it's thousands of years. I think it could be hundreds of years. I just shared with my buddy a picture, Dr. Tardis, the improbable dreamer, has a ton of the petrification videos that he's posted a few times. And I'd already believed that. And I'm like, keep going, buddy, because you'll see a cowboy boot from the 1800s, 1850s, with a petrified foot and bone inside of it. So that's 150 years, and that's petrified.
Right.
And then you'll see things that are like 30, 40 years old, completely petrified in that. And then and with that, I grabbed some of those clips, which, they weren't his, but he made a good little thing. And then I grabbed some of his. Then I grabbed some from here. Then I grabbed the Lahaina frog. And then I grabbed a little clip of somebody taking a Coke bottle and using like calcium and lime, and they were running a solution over it. They calcified a Coke bottle in like 30 minutes.
Wow.
What?
Completely like petrified it. Yeah, oh yeah. And I shared that video, so it can be rapid. Cataclysmic events. And the things that happen in like, that we're talking about, these events where they use scalar tech and frequencies, that's not new, I don't think. I've studied the old world a lot.
I don't think so either. No.
Yeah, so I mean, I truly believe that there's a lot of petrification all around us. Even buildings that we think is a specific type of concrete may have been more like a granite or, a quartz granite, and then now it just looks like stone because it's freaking petrified, because it's been hit with frequency or scalar tech. Operation, what was the woodpecker? Boom, got it. Operation Woodpecker. Russia, look up Operation Woodpecker, man. Russia, there's some pictures where they talk about nuclear blasts, and you'll see all these trees down, and I think that was scalar tech. It was frequency-based, direct energy. Weapons have been around long before then, I believe. I mean...
Yeah. Well, the United States, the DoD alone, they spend $1 billion a year in DEW research and everything. So if that's how much they're spending now every year... They've been doing this a long time, and they figured out it's useful, it works, and they need it for the future. I guess there's been issues with submarine attacks lately, and so the Navy has been pushing it a lot harder, more research, getting them into practice more. So it's in front of our faces. They're not even hiding it anymore.
Yeah. And I'm glad you bring up the sub stuff, because I remember in 2020, David E. Martin, who is the bald guy with the bow tie that just calls everything out to the T. He's been calling the Fauci ouchie from day one to the T. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, sold at grants here at Wuhan. Every little detail, he's amazing at what he does. He, from my understanding, was involved in the creation of stealth tape, which is the tape that goes around these planes to where it reflects infrared or whatever type of signals or lasers hit it so they can be stealth planes, right? This tape that's wrapped around it. Supposedly, if I'm remembering correctly, he was involved in that, but he said that the next war we're going to be dealing with that's already started was underwater. He said that in 2020. So you bringing that up reminds me of that. He's like, we're already hypersonic above ground, guys. He goes, and they're hypersonic above ground now. And what's happening is, like off the coast of Crimea, you have pipelines underwater. So if you have offense that's hypersonic underwater, do we have defense that's hypersonic underwater? And then if we have, that's just hypersonic like warfare, not to mention frequency based. And so, there's transatlantic cables. You guys, have you guys ever dove into communications? Is the vast majority of our communications is all underwater cables.
Yeah.
Not satellite, Yes, I believe in satellites, satelloons. I believe No, I don't believe in orbit and outer space, but I do believe in above, ionosphere. However they're utilizing the electrostatics up there, I think it would be very easy to electrostatically / electromagnetically have hovering star drones, if you will. They used to call them, but drones that can charge up there. Imagine like you have it up there and it's just recharging itself with, like a solar system or something. You can keep charging it and it can keep floating along electrostatically. Dirigibles used to do that. Like, it's not far-fetched to think that you have a freaking drone that can stay up there.
Right. No, I don't think so.
Dirigibles in the old world full of freaking helium, not hydrogen, flammable. That's flammable. Hindenburg went down for a reason, intentionally. Say you had helium, for example. The electrostatics are perfect, and it would just stick to the ionosphere or whatever layering they used. I'm not that great, but it would just stick there. Imagine it could stay there with like little propulsion. Just very little propulsion. Even utilize maybe the winds and the weather. Electrostatics just float along. Those would stay up for endless amounts of time and barely ever come down to more, whether to just load and unload. And those dirigibles would unload at lighthouses, is what those lighthouses really were. I don't know if you guys ever got into that. Empire State Building was a huge mooring location. But that just proves that, yes, I believe that there's satellites up there. Yes, we have high-flying drone Google image planes constantly taking photos. So when they're like, okay, this guy's crazy, it's like, here's my explanation for that.
Well, and
what makes more sense?
That's HARP, too. It's all that's all HARP is all the ionosphere and studying that and.
Okay, so HARP, the high frequency auroral craziness. So Jim Lee from Climate Viewer covers HARP very well. He was the first person to really ever publicly call them out a long time ago, and he tells you exactly how it works in a lot of his podcasts. On Climate Viewer, I have his website pulled up here, but on YouTube. Mm-hmm. That's how I really learned about HARP, was through Jim Lee at Climate Viewer. And there's a lot of people saying HARP, 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 HARP. You know, if you make a weather modification post and it goes like a little viral, you're going to have hundreds of comments of people saying HARP, 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 like we're like sheep, like HARP, 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 HARP. But like, do we really know what it is? And I was one of those people. I would always be like HARP, HARP, HARP. That was me like 3 years ago. Well, what he taught was most of them have been inactive for a long time, and it's almost like outdated. Because it takes a ton of diesel generators, and it's very expensive to get it up and running. And when they're up and running, these ham radio operators know when they're up and running because of the frequencies they use. Does that make sense?
Right.
It's no secret when they're up and running. Mm-hmm. As soon as you crank it on, anybody that knows how to use their CB or these ham radio operators know it's up and running from miles and miles away.
Yeah.
So there is no secret to HARPs being up and running. And it's very expensive. So imagine you had this massive field of EMF that does exactly what you're talking about, Ashley. Yeah, it sucks. Like, I can't believe that it exists.
Yeah.
What Anchorage, Alaska, right? Puerto Rico were our first. There's so many of them now. They have them on floating cargo ships now, I think, floating around everywhere, just casually like, okay, let's not address these. But generally, they've been off. So those locations that we think of are causing everything has been off, and you know when they're on. And Jim Lee is like, hey, no, Alaska hasn't been turned on in like a decade, guys. They turned it on once, and we knew, and blah, blah, blah. But when I said that the wind came from China, from Lahaina, it was China's HARP. When I say HARP, the entire Tibetan Plateau is full of these cloud seeding generators, similar to HARP. Mm-hmm. They have the entire world's HARP centers in one location almost. That's how they're flooding out their citizens and causing all their crazy weather mod. They're like the weather mod ruthless psychopaths. Like, theirs is way worse. If you've seen the flooding in the cities, like the people revolt and the city floods that day, the next day. It's like no. And where's all their commerce and trade? They all trade in the streets, right?
Right.
No, don't you do that? We take out your tree. You guys are selling your fruit and waiters tomorrow.
Yeah,
right.
But when you do that, does a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil? How did Jim Lee say it? Cause a tornado in Texas? The butterfly effect.
Right.
So when you're causing that much of a disturbance over there and that powerful, they have caused these wind directions to come this way. High pressure systems, low pressure systems. When you do something over here, it's going to cause something over here.
Right.
Think of the Earth as this big enclosed system. You can think of it as this big old sphere that I don't, or a big old dome. I care not. But we are a closed system. Even Bill Nye, the science guy, will tell you we are an enclosed system.
Well, if Bill said it.
It's got to be true. So you have massive nonsense going on over here in China. When you say that HARP in China and that Tibetan Plateau causes craziness over here, we're experiencing not only that, but our own as well. They cranked HARP back up for a day, and they told you in Alaska. What was that for? Oh, they created the false aurora borealis. Did you guys catch that?
No.
They just brag about it. Yeah, it's all plasma game. They're playing with plasma games. They're creating an artificial aurora borealis, and they're testing technology. I don't understand all the weapons and tech they use. It just reminds me of Tesla's Waldendorf Tower, to be honest with you. When I read it, I'm like, oh, well, that's not new. That's the Waldendorf Tower.
Yeah.
Same thing. Tesla was going to send signals with J.P. Morgan. No. J.P. Morgan broke it down because he realized he was about to send power over the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's tear that down. And so when it comes to HARP, Jim Lee said they weren't on. Yes, they do what we all think they do. There are a lot more active locations. They do play a role, but imagine you had thousands of little Doppler radars next rad towers. Jim Lee doesn't believe in this. He makes fun of this, but I have a kind of a channel called Microsite. They got banned. He got banned on TikTok, banned on Instagram, had to start over. So now he's Microsite 2.0. But he had phenomenal videos, and he likes to show the frequencies going through the storms. And my favorite is when he shows, you guys know what a next rad tower is, right? And the XRED, it's like imagine a Doppler, the dome Doppler that sends out these multi-directional signals. If you look at them going pow, pinging, these next rad towers, they all ping. Mm-hmm. You can see evaporation above them. And when I say evaporation, you'll see like a circle diameter from this guy's videos, boom, of when they ping, when they pulse, you see this evaporation. Well, imagine thousands of them going off in unison in a big old wave across the country. And then the storms completely reacting and moving exactly along with that. With the pulsing, it's almost like they're doing it like they programmed all of them. And it's like, wait a second. Jim Lee says there's not enough power in next rad towers to steer a hurricane. But what I saw during hurricanes was a wave of pulses of all these different towers causing like evaporation, which is going to choke out the storm and steer it.
Right.
Interesting.
Like what? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So go ahead. You look like you're going to ask.
Well, no, just so like each tower kind of just dissipates that part of the storm, and so it just kind of starts getting moving towards the stronger area of the storm as it travels through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
And what I've learned is that, like HARP, these little next rad towers and or 5G towers, fifth generation cellular towers, to me, they can not only create water or evaporate it. And just a tiny little bit of carbon out of these planes. Like when I say like $5 in carbon can make miles of clouds.
That's
Did you
insane.
hear what I said?
Yeah.
There's something called carbon black dust or black carbon. Those are two different things. One's just like soot coming out of the back of planes. One's an actual military application that's synthetically kind of made and engineered. But like, imagine like spending $5 to make miles of clouds. That's pretty easy weather. They did that in the 50s.
Yeah.
50s.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy to think of next rad towers, their capabilities, plus 5G towers that my understanding is they're not using them for cell phones right now, right? Like, I don't think we're at this high band 5G. I think it's still the same. Supposedly it got stopped.
I think it got halted for a little bit because too many people were talking about it not being safe for consumer use just yet.
Did you ever hear the fun? Wasn't it part of Kofifi? Cobalt? No, that's what David Straight said it was. Maybe. Well, the conspiracy with Trump was, so when it comes to jurisdiction, in 2020 you had 5G was a big deal in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Matt from Cultivate Elevate, Spencer, I've been calling out 5G since March of 2020. I've been calling it out because a byproduct of radiation sickness is flu-like symptoms. That's what a Faraday cage was. Faraday tested a room with radio signals, without radio signals, and the one with radio signals, you got flu-like symptoms. So we've known, and there's direct radar comes out, Spanish flu, just like covering up your weapons with a fire, you send out a bacterial viruses, I don't know. Then there's a whole germ theory versus terrain theory. Say you send out a bacterial load or you infect a population via their own volunteering. So you didn't do it illegally. They volunteered. Yeah, sure, come infect me. I'm not infecting the whole family, the whole town. Cool. Yeah. Whatever it may be, no, any listeners, you guys, I don't mind. I have family members that are long jabbed multiple times over. There's nothing I
God
could
bless
do
them.
Not us.
Frank. Couldn't be us.
Caught a lot of people off guard, understandably so.
Right.
Neither here nor there. But I am not an advocate. Never was for a second. And just like masking the Lahaina, weapons with the fire, or 9/11, you have the planes and the explosives and the demolitions. Masking those weapons. I think it's the same system when it comes to implementing new frequencies and all the radiation sickness that comes along with these systems. So when you implement this new system, you're going to want to have some pandemics to mask it. I said in March of 2020, as a nobody, just like not having 1/1000th of the information in my head as I do now, in 2020, I was saying, this is the scapegoat for fifth generation cellular technology. This is the scapegoat for 5G, mark my words. And I said it so early, I got made fun of in my town so bad. I mean, I got ripped. And till this day, I still believe it because, you know, I have a friend that has leukemia from being a lineman. When you're underneath high voltage power lines, you can't ground yourself. There's no way to discharge because if you ground yourself, you could die if you get hit.
Right.
So these guys are underneath these high voltage power lines all day. And these power lines are very high capacitance. When you have high voltage power lines, if the ground is wet, wireless power induction, like Tesla talks about, a wet ground steals power from the power lines.
Right.
Imagine if the power companies were actually losing power, which that's not how it actually works. Imagine they would be losing money and power because of the wet ground. So when you increase the high voltage and you see all these things going up bigger and higher, they're going up higher because that capacitance is being increased, and they've got to get it away from the ground because of wireless power inductions, Tesla style. So you are going to absorb, and that's wireless. So if I get my body next to an outlet, I don't want my baby's head to be sleeping next to an electrical outlet. Do I have my EMF meter out here? No, it's inside. It's inside by my baby, where my baby wife sleeps. Yeah. I check everything like once a week. It's like, what are we doing stupid this week? What device do we have next to our head all night this week? But if you don't want to sleep with your head next to the electrical outlet, because there is a specific, voltage reading coming off of that wirelessly that is absolutely not good for you. You can take a Gauss meter or specific types of meters. You can get radio signals wirelessly from a power outlet on the wall. That's how much is coming off. That's you crazy. Can literally tune in to radio signals from your power outlet. You don't want that. And all of this ties in. It's so crazy. I can keep rambling. I talk a lot. You guys aren't talking at all. Steer your podcast a little bit. I'm sorry, guys.
No. Hey, you're sharing so much information. So much information. That's insane, though. I never knew it was radiating that much off of the outlets like that. I knew that it was all pulsing, and I knew that it's all bad for us and everything, but I didn't know it was such a strong frequency that you could actually pick it up just by being next to it.
Go to Amazon when we're done and look up power outlet EMF blockers, the devices. And if you watch the little commercial, there's a lady kind of going viral on Instagram with their product. It's just a good product. You can plug it in and block all that, and she'll show you that. And it's a lot. It's way more than you think. It's funny why it matters to me now so much, and it's literally viewers laugh, anybody laugh. It's fun. I'm totally cool about it. I took off work and studied physics and law for 6 months because I was so upset about strawman stuff. I was going to have a kid. Right. I was like, what about this? Why would I get a birth certificate? Why would I do that to my child? This is a horrible idea. And I went down the rabbit holes like crazy. And I was studying physics and law and trying to do the state national sovereignty stuff. Got very heavy into that. Very heavy into banking, and realized that study was very dense, low energy. It was making me sick. I was just miserable studying law, getting crazy letters in the mail from things I was trying. I was scared of my P.O. box. I'm like, man, got a call from the FBI once. It's like, why are they calling me? I'm not a bad guy. And what happened was I started microdosing psilocybin. And while on psilocybin microdosing, barefoot under a tree, an oak tree, by a lake, by myself, nasty storm came, and I learned physics and frequencies that day. And it wasn't a crazy heavy trip, but it was a medium. I did microdosing to learn. I like to write songs and be creative. I had to get out of that law stuff. I'm like, man, I have got to get this out of my body. Yeah. I got to get this data. I was force feeding into my computer here. My, what do you call this, your hard drive? Yeah. If you have to force something into your brain to memorize it, if you're having to force it, just remember it's not divine and natural. It's probably not meant for you. It's probably something of man's construct, not that of God, not divine.
Yeah.
Not something that you're connected to with a proper interpretation of scripture or something like that, or just natural creation. It's probably not of that. You're having to force feed yourself this because it's part of man's construct. And so I had to get that crap out of me, and I just knew it. And during that trip, I remember, you guys are gonna like this. The storm came, and I was like, oh my gosh, I get it, I understand everything, and I could hear this buzzing. And I was realizing that what I thought I was experiencing while I was tripping was actually happening. It was physics. It wasn't a trip. It was me being able to see more of the light spectrum.
Right.
It was me I fasted. I did an enema. I got all this, rotten flesh meat. I love eating grass-fed, grass-finished beef, but I had to get all this rotten flesh out of me. I fasted. I drank electrolytes. I was on potassium and salt. When I say potassium, just organic coconut water. I mean, I legit had some high quality psilocybin shamanic experiences. And after that storm, I heard this buzzing, and I'm like, what the heck? That's kind of like ruining my trip here, ruining my moment. I'm learning everything, hearing these sounds. And I can see all the way across the lake. I can see the patterns on the cat all the way across the lake. Like I have Superman vision.
Yeah.
And it's not tripping because I'm like, I can just see it. I pick up a flower. I can see. It's almost like you have microscope vision.
Yeah.
As far as I wanted to see, I could keep seeing inside the flower. And I'm like, that's not tripping, because afterwards I pulled out a magnifying glass to check.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. And what happened was that buzzing, I started walking up the hill. Storm came, water's gushing down the hillside. That buzzing was me being able to hear the power lines buzzing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when I stepped in the water that was flowing down the hill barefoot, it would go, then I'd step out, it would go,
Wow.
The flowing water, when I would step into it barefoot, was increasing my antenna system.
Yeah, you were being a conductor.
From wirelessly grabbing the freaking buzzing of the power lines, and I started tuning in, and I could look at each individual transformer from however far away, and I could literally feel the frequency of the transformers and the power lines.
The one that you're looking at.
And that just happened, and I'm like, okay, this isn't tripping. This is me learning physics and being clean enough and pure enough and connected enough to understand what's going on. I was grounded.
Yeah.
I was clean. I wasn't all, like right now I'm full of mucus. I'm like, ugh. I was in trees all day. I was in trees all day with a freaking trimmer and all these bushes. I can't even breathe right now. But seriously, that stuff right there is how when Topher Gardner talks about weather mod, or these guys talk about this stuff, I'm like, I get it, because I understand frequency now. And it always ties in. The old world with the bells. Flagler donating that building. No, you can't have a bell. Sorry, you can't have a bell. I mean, everything gets so deep, even to the textile industry. You see these patterns?
Yeah.
Imagine these patterns, itty bitty bitty.
Yeah.
What if you had woven spirals like this, like your DNA strands for your textiles, as opposed to squared off blocks? Like we have brutalist architecture, or do we have arches? Right? Arches and spirals and all this, Fibonacci sequence.
Right.
This stuff matters. They put us in a box.
Yeah.
They put us in boxes.
Yep.
What is the birth certificate? It's a box.
Yep.
It's a paper.
Yep.
It's the four corners, right?
Yep.
Why is it on bond paper? Why bond paper and not just regular old cheap paper? Why does that matter? It sure is thicker. You start thinking about everything. It's like, holy crap. Why is gold and silver? So when I was tripping that day, I went back and I tried to do it again. And it happened again. But this time I brought copper and zinc. Because I'm, an avid TikToker.
Yeah.
And you learn tricks on these apps. As an adult, that it's just like, all right, I've got to try that on. Just so happens, I did psilocybin for a year. I did it very responsibly. I did some big trips, mild trips, and again, microdosing for learning. But a very important thing I learned was holding copper in one hand and zinc in the other increased the entire circuit. Wow. Because I was like, this guy's making a battery out of copper and zinc. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, what if I just hold it in my hand? So I would stand in that flowing water, and guess what? Copper and zinc made it even more. I'm like, gosh, this is like the movie. This is like video games. It's like freaking
Yeah.
It's like all the movies, and you start thinking, you're like, oh my gosh, they're putting it right in our faces.
Yep.
They are.
And
Yep.
you remember all the swords from video games? They would shoot like sparks or like energy out of their swords. Well, imagine these swords with a crystal right here, wrapped with what? What were they wrapped with? What was at the end? What were they made out of? And then you have all this lead armor, just extreme lead armor to the point where there's just a slit right here. What if that wasn't just for freaking arrows and sticks and stones?
Yeah.
Lead paint on the walls?
Right.
Yep.
What if the whole old world, because to me, I'm like, wait a second. The old world was far more freaking advanced than we've been told and taught. What if that armor was for more scalar tech blocking, and that's how devastation has been happening for hundreds of years?
Right. Well, I'm a firm believer that they've reset society numerous times throughout history. Numerous times throughout history. And, I mean, every once in a while there are pieces of artifacts that are left behind from those civilizations, like our old buildings, our old architects. But for the most part, they start over. They wipe it all out and they start over.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost like, if you ever look at how many things Tesla was inventing, just how many, it's like, well, what do you invent 3 things a day every day that month?
Yeah.
I'm like, it seems as if, and there's a lot of different like speculation. Imagine he was given a list from older patents from an older time.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a list, but you need to use them with these resources now because we're on U.S. Standard Oil now. We don't get to use wireless power induction. You know, Henry Ford's first line of vehicles. You guys have seen the electric vehicle catalog.
Yeah.
His wife had the 1,000-mile charge, beating the most modern Tesla. Come on,
Right?
Yeah.
So what I really think happened is he was given these and given the task of reinventing things. They're like, hey, this is what we need you to make with this. This is what you've got. Here's your resources, but they have to fit the new narrative. And I think because he was reinventing all these things, he was privy to old world archives and old world systems that made him, and he figured things out. He's like, oh, but they're not going to give him everything, right? They gave him just enough to where he figured out the secrets of the universe because they probably didn't think he would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, shut up and do your job.
Underestimated him.
You and your 369 nonsense. Nothing new. We're going to tear that tower down. We see what you're doing now.
Yeah, we don't like
JP Morgan.
We can't make money off of that.
Yeah.
All right, what you got next?
I guess the one thing that everybody talks about, and I would love to hear if you have a little more of a scientific edge to it, is chemtrails. Everyone talks about chemtrails. It seems like you're constantly seeing stuff in the sky. Like, what's your take on it? What is it all, amalgamating to? Just curious.
Well, I make a lot of posts on them because they do upset me because I see them pretty much almost every day now.
Yeah, that's true.
2020. Yeah, you guys are hit hard. Matt from Cultivate Elevates in Arizona, so he's posting regularly. Similar to, he's like, see, look at this nonsense. This is what it looks like. But I make those posts all the time. I've seen so many freaking rainbows in the clouds. And no, I don't think it's because we're in a new sun, this, that, and the other. It's like you spill gas behind the boat in the river.
Right.
You see rainbows on top of the water.
It's the chemicals.
But you'll have Paul Delgado from Fox 13. Look at this beautiful blah, blah, blah prism. They name all the academic names. It's like, I don't even want to give him credit for the name. I don't even want to say him. So he's just going, here's this, that. Isn't it beautiful? And I'm just like, screw all of you. No. But don't get me wrong, the sun sets when you have a sky full of all of these metals from chem spraying all day. The metals seem to have this crazy reflection. So you'll have a gloomy weather modification chemtrail day where, say, it's just like this. Jim Lee explains carbon black dust or black carbon, where it's like soot in the clouds. To me, that's very different than the aluminum, strontium, barium, geoengineeringwatch.org, Dane Wigington. How do I say his? I always say his name wrong. Geoengineeringwatch.org, but that's a different system. There's different systems of all these things happening.
Right.
They've been going on since the 50s. There's plenty of FOIA requests on climateviewer.com. You want to act like they don't exist. Anybody who thinks they don't exist, you're You're a fighter pilot? Great. Go to climateviewer.com and read some FOIA requests. Okay? Then we'll talk.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's some applications for cloud seeding in Texas in 2020 where they had excessive snow, a 500-year snowstorm, and here's 69 cloud seeding permit applications in that area that were never there before.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, and here's a bunch of guys burning the snow and it burns brown, not clear.
Yeah, we shared that video too.
Oh, so you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
the guy was sitting at a bar. He went outside, got a snowball, came inside and burnt it, and it burned like it was plastic.
Yeah, there's so many of those little videos that add up, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, it's because it's dirty. It's because of the smog and it's because of the smog from the cars." And it's like, okay, well, how about this lady? The snow just fell on her car and it looks like confetti. Okay, right. How about the one like this one looks like today's was what was it? Snow needles.
Yeah, the coconut shavings. Yeah.
Looks like coconut shavings. I'm like, gosh, they get a new weather thing every day. How are they going to keep up with this academically? Like, these kids just, like, their tests are going to get longer and longer.
But it's just nobody looks at these things and thinks, this could be a problem.
Yeah.
Like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
You know, it's just normal day to day. Oh, the news said that it's just a different kind of storm. We haven't seen this one before.
Yeah, I mean, I posted a video where the news anchor is like bragging because she's a meteorologist. She brags about then she brags about all the new cloud formations and like everybody just eats it up. That's sitting there watching the show, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like we've been telling you, they are going to start putting this in your kids' curriculum.
Yep.
Most cirrus clouds are man-made.
Yep.
One more time. Most of these cirrus cloud formations are man-made. They have been for a long time. Yeah. And it's like, no meteorologist wants to hear that. No academic wants to hear that. Right. I love that you're passionate about what you do. I love that you understand the science and the physics of it. But when I watch it come out of the back of a plane and it stays there all day and it lingers, and then it's in the water, and then it's in the water table, and then sometimes we even get, when we collect our own evidence, I no longer care what you have to say.
Right.
I no longer care. When I have it in my hand and I light it on fire, and that came right out of the air. It didn't land on the ground. I no longer need your academic rebuttal. Now I can move on and be like, okay, what can I do to try to help spread awareness, whether you believe it or not?
Oh, but they have peer review journals, so don't worry.
Oh, the peer review journals.
Peer review. David E. Martin smokes peer review journals. Better than everybody.
We get that comment so much.
Yeah, so much.
Chemtrails, Ashley, there's different kinds.
Mm-hmm.
Not even like hidden, like right out in the open, Bill Gates, we're going to reflect the sun back. We're doing this. We have partners, commercial airlines. This is not hidden, guys. We're not talking conspiracy. This is them saying, this is what we're going to do. They said it before. This is what we're going to do. And these are our partners now. Now we're doing it, and we're saving the planet. And people still tell me that it's not real. It's not happening. I'm like, the guy is telling you he's doing it.
Yeah.
These are the people that are saying that they're involved in it, and this is how it works. And you're telling me that that's not happening.
Yeah.
But when you look up, and I can stare directly at the sun, like literally 60% of the time now, because there's a film always in between me and the sun in the sunshine state, it's kind of sucks. Like that's life. Yeah. We need the full light spectrum in our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to have to wear glasses because we've done everything wrong. Right. We're going to keep putting sunglasses on. I used to love sunglasses. I had cool sunglasses. I don't wear them anymore. I bought so many cool sunglasses, sat and broke $150 sunglasses, sat on them in the truck. And now I look back, I'm like, dang it. It's like putting a weight belt on and never taking it off. Your eyes, you're stuck in that spectrum. Your eyes are not only meant to see in distances, but we're supposed to be getting the full light spectrum. When your brain is comprehending that you're getting the full light spectrum, it's going to teach you what to do with it when it hits your skin. Your body's going to react. There's going to be a beautiful corresponding flow, and you're not going to just burn or bake the chemicals into your skin like sunscreens. Like, we have to understand how important that sunlight is.
Right.
They're blocking it out because of control.
Yep. Yep.
Calendar. calendars have been changed because of control. I'm sure you guys,
right.
October.
Yeah.
October is 8, not 10.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you got all these climate change people, right? And I always tell them it's always about control. That's the whole point of it. I mean, they've been beating the climate change thing for decades upon decades upon decades. And yes, there is climate change, but they're the ones that are doing it. It's not like, oh, we're all gonna die in 10 years, like they always keep saying every 10 years, right? but it's all about control, and it's about like what we've been talking about. All this is in preparation for Agenda 2030. It's all to get us ready for the smart cities. It's all to get us ready for everything being digital, everything being electronic, and so we have to use whatever system that they have built for us for the safety of us, because we don't know how to take care of the planet. And that's their whole entire thing is, you don't know how to take care of the planet. Here, we'll take care of everything. You just got to live in this city that everything's 15 minutes within a walk of where you live.
Or even taking care of yourself.
Right.
Now it's up to the government to have your health care figured out, to, do your job, to universal income. Like everything is just control. And it's all connected.
Yep.
And it is all connected.
It's all
weather, all of it.
You mentioned the smart cities, and we didn't exactly harp on land grabs, but we didn't harp on land grabs, but it plays a big role. And contamination was part. You guys covered contamination.
We did.
Yeah.
Rural areas, things like that. They have a plan for cities. They have a plan for rural areas.
Yep.
Isn't it funny? Acapulco. You have these amazing coastline locations that are getting absolutely smashed. And they're going to get bought up for pennies on the dollar. Yeah. People are going to leave these locations. There's an entire insurance racket to all of this as well.
Yeah.
People can't afford insurance in Florida. I'm telling you, my grandmother's was doubled. Like one of my grandmothers, she has money, and she's like, mine doubled. And I thought to myself, if she didn't have money, like every other old lady in town can't handle a doubled homeowner's insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
Double. And this is normal Florida now. People are leaving. I have customers. I do screen repair. I have a screen repair business. We have pool cages over pools in Florida because the bugs are so bad.
Yeah.
And I screen them. I re-screen them all the time. I've done that since I was young. I love doing it. I love being outside, climbing on them and all that stuff. But literally, like, my customers are leaving because they cannot afford homeowners insurance. I'm like, wait a second. They just got blasted with weather modification. We've had crazy, weird hail. So imagine these screens. You know what screens are? They're like window screens. They're like fiberglass with paint on them.
Yeah.
So imagine that over these aluminum cages around these pools. We had literal weather modification, random hail bursts the last couple of years because of all this stuff. Like a byproduct of silver iodide, for example, is snow and hail, because the crystallization formation of silver iodide is almost identical to that of water. And so you get these fake snowflakes. It's a byproduct of doing it when you should, where you shouldn't.
Right.
And so we get nailed by hail. And I mean, I'm a screen repair man. My phone rang all day, every day, because it's like, wait, hail in the middle of the summer. What's going on here? I was outside making a TikTok, Instagram video, getting smacked in the middle of summer in Florida. I'm talking swamps, hot Central Florida.
Yeah.
Get nailed by hail in the middle of summer because it was this like ice cold flash storm that came from spray. And my buddy lives on the coast, and he's like, headed your way today. They sprayed all over the coast this morning, and I could see it, the grid just coming inland. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So, before we get off the types of sprays, there's so many types, like reflecting the UV. You've got even a hurricane modification. You can spray oil slicks and an oil-based spray out in front of a hurricane to where oil lands on the surface of the water. And so when you have oil on the surface of the water, it actually chokes out the storm. So the storm will move away from it. It will steer it. And so those are called like oil
So it's like
slicks.
a bumper.
Yeah.
Wow.
It takes away the fuel for the storm on the surface of the water. And there's so many different types. Carbon black is different than the aluminum, strontium, barium. And then like there's some really messed up conspiracy stuff. I don't like to get too dark, but we all cover it anyway.
Yeah.
Freaking mold spores. Like, there's been mold spores intentionally sprayed over people, and there's FOIA requests on those projects. Yes, they have project names. And people are like, there's a lot of military people that will kind of talk about you can't use weather modification. All these countries, we can't use weather modification on each other. We've got treaties and all this and that. And I'm like, okay. First of all, you just call it something else. You use legalese, and you do it anyways. First of all, it's done anyways. They just call it something else.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like blocking out the sun is not a form of warfare.
Right.
Block out the sun, my crops don't grow. You just starved me out. That's a form of warfare, dummy.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, there's nothing more to discuss. You take away the sun from me, we're at war.
Yeah.
Period.
Absolutely.
So you can't do that. It is completely legal jurisdictionally for our own government, the corporation of the United States that's located in a filing cabinet in D.C., to spray its own citizens. Right. They can treat us like they do the military. People don't really understand that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of civil rights and these corporate bylaws. There's a lot of protections hidden in there. And no, I have not studied it. Yes, lawyers study all these corporate bylaws and civil stuff, but those aren't God-given unalienable rights. Like, the United States of America was a company held in trust. In God we trust. We the people lived on the land. They were electors that elected their representatives. They didn't vote for the president like a toilet seat kind of deal.
Yeah.
But the corporation and the military, they can treat citizens just like the military. You know how they force jab all of our military friends?
Yeah,
all of my friends are like experiments. Freaking experiments.
Yep.
Oh, I got a good spin. You guys are gonna like on that. But like, they don't have a choice. And the truth is, if you don't literally say no and just fight back physically, like, be willing to lose your job and maybe a class action, or you can get an appeal later on. If you don't say no right out of the gate, they have legal jurisdiction to jab you in a lot of cases. Like, there was some legislation that came in 2020 where Ron DeSantis, he was doing all this amazing stuff for all of our rednecks and conservatives in Florida. Don't get me wrong. He was saying all the right things, telling everybody what they wanted to hear. And I was like, gosh, I'm lucky to be in Florida. But I saw one thing that gave the head of the Department of Health, ultimate authority. If they deemed you a threat to public health, they could use any means necessary to vaccinate you, put you in a camp, quarantine you. It said any means necessary, and it gave one person the ultimate authority. And that is the same, you guys know this, I know you know this, that is the same tactic that WHO is using.
Yeah.
We had DeSantis, who, whether you can't stand him or whatever, we had an amazing time in 2020 because we had him, because we were up and running.
Right.
We were partying. The whole world
Right.
was shut down. Florida was partying a lot. I mean,
Right.
businesses got shut down for a brief period of time, and people were wearing face diapers. I never did. I never skipped a beat. I wrote a song called "Take Your Mask and Shove It" that went viral. But like, that is some serious legislation that ties into all of this. And I don't think people realize it's war. Weather modification is war, and they have jurisdiction to do a lot of things people don't understand. If you're a U.S. citizen and you don't know how to protect yourself or defend yourself, or you don't have the stones or the grit to just say no and be like, yeah, not happening. No, it's not happening. When the masses say no, that is the best revolt. Just politely, peacefully, from your home, from your job. Type in, I'm at my computer at my job. The boss says, okay, you're going to have to fire me. That is so powerful. Imagine hundreds of millions of people doing that. I'm good, thanks.
Yep.
No thanks.
But
that's peaceful.
But they keep them too indoctrinated that no one ever really sees what the truth is.
Well, they're terrified. They keep people in fear constantly.
They're incentivized, and they keep them terrified. Their jobs.
Yep.
So we all have bills. People love their things. People like their nice stuff. I have some nice things too, but like, I live in a bar now. I changed my whole lifestyle. I'm trying to be more like literally, you see this? There's a screen. I'm under a pole barn, and my living quarters is 560 square feet, made like a house, right in front of me. But like, this is my living room.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard to let go of the stuff that enslaves us. But we can do it. And it starts by being at your job and saying no. But like maybe getting everybody at your job to freaking say no. Maybe get everybody to say, hey, do you think those look like real clouds while everybody's on break?
Right.
50 people are looking at some nonsense. 20 of them are probably going to, from that day forward, be like, oh, yeah, that wasn't normal. You know?
Right.
That helps the fight because the awareness is a big deal. There's a level of, I know, I've listened enough to you guys. You guys understand the metaphysical and the spiritual side of things where consent comes into play.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like they didn't hold anybody down and jab them. Our friends and family voluntarily did it,
Right.
Via job threats, mainly job security and money and incentivizing.
Travel.
To the point of travel, hamburgers, fries.
Hamburgers, fries. Hey, they needed those free fries, man. They needed those free fries.
Those videos, looking back now, are so creepy. If you guys like eating the fries, it's so creepy.
Come get jabbed. What world?
Oh, yeah.
You can learn so much being a conspiracy theorist. It's so much better than going to school. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually, to kind of wrap things up here, we're talking about bigger picture is doing this for our littles,
Right.
Yeah. Have you kind of thought about what you're going to do in terms of, educating, your baby when time comes? Like, how much do you tell them? Do they go to, traditional school? Are you homeschooling? Have you thought about that yet?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty clear that I'm an extremist when it comes to this. And, I'm a hard no.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm so far in, you can't go back. Once you know enough, it's going to be really hard for me to just allow certain things. Even if my friend's baby's head is next to a power outlet, my kid's head is not going to be next to the power outlet because of all the tests I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And so it starts there. Then it turns into no earbuds.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is measuring brain activity. There's a reason LeBron James had an issue here, and it's not from osmosis. Samsung paid a lot to LeBron James for what happened around this area for a reason. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to this stuff that's going to tie into one different thing. And I'm glad you asked that because it's one of the main reasons that sent me so passionately learning as fast as I could. We've reached the point where we moved a little bit north from where I traditionally live. Zephyr Hills bottled water. You ever had that bottled water?
Mm-hmm.
It comes from a spring. It used to be some of the best water in the world. Came from a spring where I live, Florida spring, beautiful Florida spring, bottled water. Nestle bought them out. Now it's crap. But anyways, we moved north. We changed the way we live to the point where our work is different. I work for cash a lot. I love cash because even though I know cash is debt notes, I work very hard labor-wise, and I do the screen stuff, and today I was doing other stuff, and I'm gaining skills to where I want to keep cycling cash locally and be what I believe in. It's our last thing we have. Cash is the last thing we have.
Right.
Once it's all digital, the surveillance is there. We're done.
Right.
And so I'm like, dang, it's extremely inconvenient, but I will drive back to my customer to go get cash.
Right.
If it's inconvenient, some customers think it's annoying. I say, you know what, guys, if it's that important to you, I will add another $50 onto the bill and you can write me a check.
Right.
How's that? Because I know how to mitigate it too, though, when it comes to taxations. I'm pretty good with the legal stuff and I know what buttons to push and how to, but I think, honestly, we're obviously not going to do public school. There's no way these indoctrination camps. There's no way.
Right.
But the problem is, we tried to have a home birth. We tried to have a through and through home birth. I mean, I'm talking, you're looking at the midwife, kind of.
I love that.
Oh man,
little tough.
Don't want to tell too much, but after 60 hours, we threw the towel.
Oh wow!
And I'm not saying it was dangerous, but what I'm saying is, at 48 hours, we threw the organic towel in at the house. Ended up in a hospital. Ended up having she kept going and going. There was no issues. No one would believe that, but trust me, we studied our butts off.
Yeah.
We're not slouches when it comes to physics or health or safety and all that stuff.
Right.
So we had the hospital birth certificate process. I know what this entails. I now know my child being bonded and insured with a birth certificate, and it being from that, I know what that means. So I know the consequences of being a rebel parent now. So now it's not just me hot dog in my truck running my mouth on Instagram and TikTok. Now I'm still doing this with a little one, and now it's like, okay, at what point is something going to be digitally tracked where it's like, okay, we have a birth certificate here and it's never been enrolled in school, so we're going to start sending, here comes Child
CPS.
Services.
Yeah, exactly.
So that stuff I do believe is going to come. I am willing to do as much as possible. I've already thought of those scenarios. Every scenario I've already thought of long ahead. It's just kind of how I'm wound up tonight just talking about this stuff. I love talking. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
I'm wound up right now just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've already thought of the scenarios. I have my lines in the sand drawn with a few things. And I'm not talking crazy, but like I have physical boundaries that won't be crossed. And I have no problem being like, tell my kid who I was.
Right.
2020 was almost there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
People were voluntarily going and getting stab juice.
Yeah.
But I can see like children not having the choice.
Right.
They have the legal jurisdiction to take your kids from a school and inject them with whatever they want without telling you.
Yep.
You guys know that?
Yeah.
Yep.
So if your kid's at school because you're like, I want them to be socialized, I want this and that and the other, just remember they have the legal jurisdiction to do that. And they were doing that in locations all around the country already.
Yeah, there's one in Ohio that I read about.
So to ignore it is kind of silly.
Foolish.
So it's a catch-22, Ashley. When it comes to the kids, there's a guy that was involved with these wonderful people I go live with on TikTok a lot. And this young guy is similar age. I'm 35. I think he's close to the same age. And he's got like something bears. It's like imagine like the Sovereign Berenstein Bears kids books. He started a children book line that's all conspiracy and teaching the truth about money and everything. It's called you guys should have him on.
Yeah.
He's high caliber. He's a really, really cool guy. I've never talked to him, but my direct friends have had him on live and I couldn't make it that night.
Okay.
But he has a book line that's all for teaching children. And I've already been asked, and my wife has been asked to do homeschool groups. I believe I'm going to do homeschool groups. We're already growing food here.
Right.
I was on 13 acres up the road on a lake that a guy is going to let me manage. And he goes, if you can grow food and make money on it, do it. It's unusable land, and I just don't want. I bought it because I don't want neighbors. And he really likes me. So I'm like, well, dang, maybe it's time for me to no longer use. Like I used to draw in AutoCAD, maybe it's time to have a more practical skill and use a land resource and do the things I truly believe in.
Yeah.
Clean air, clean water, clean food,
right?
High quality food. Have my devices, but like I'm out here, I understand my Wi-Fi fields. I understand my little area very well. Got to find the balance. I don't want to end up in prison. I want to be there for my kid. I don't want my kid to have a terrible life. We've got to find the balance. Have you ever seen the movie Captain Fantastic?
No.
Watch it. There may be some religious parts that upset you, but it's this family that raises their kids in the woods.
Huh.
And you'll know the main actor and a couple characters, the kids. He raises them in the woods because of, it's like the mentality of the stuff that I've learned. I'm very extreme now. Like I only want to eat out of my yard, and like I don't want to engage in society. Yeah. You should be able to tell me I can't put a shed in my backyard. They have this bus. They have these houses in these gorgeous woods. They train. They educate. When I say they train, the children are trained. They get like knives for their birthday. Little kids.
Yeah.
They clean animals. They educate. They're so far educated beyond, the average kid. And like they're out in these woods, and then something happens, and someone gets hurt, and they have to go into town, and then they take the kids. The grandparents take the kids. But when they're visiting family, these kids are like so far advanced compared to these city slicker kids that are like goobers.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like it's emphasized in the movie, but it shows the contrast of exactly what we're talking about, thinking about. That's what that movie's really about. And the end of the movie, to me, truly is the balance. They show what the balance is. And Captain Fantastic was a great representation, I think, of exactly what you just asked, as well as the kid that has the children's books that's literally just explaining all the nonsense.
Yeah. Well, you're already taking the first steps, man, to be completely independent of the system and everything else. We talk about all the time how we just want to buy a bunch of land in the middle of nowhere and build a commune and then
parents here, other parents there.
Just go off grid. Yeah.
They keep those stories in all the best communities. There's a lot of documentaries on those communities that's kind of kept swept under the rug.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's a big deal. But you always got to remember jurisdiction. Underneath my phone, if it wasn't balancing on it, I have my land patents from the 1850s. So I'm trying to figure out how to use them. The land law examiner from the Bureau of Land Management for the Eastern States. I have a signed and sealed here. Actually, I'll just show you guys. You guys need to see this. It's important.
Yeah.
Because you guys just said this. And, it's a good closer if you guys need to close and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think you'll really appreciate this. I got into all that crazy stuff, sovereignty, banking. It's like, and at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I need to get a trust, like all of the elites and all of these worlds we've always done. You got to have a trust being passed down. You can't touch a trust, things like that. And this was the book, What You Need to Know About Land Patents. It's by Ron Gibson. People are not very successful at expressing these, but we're not far off at all, because I know people that have done it successfully, but it's very hard, and they had a lot of resources and time that I don't have. This looks like some silly thing printed, right? It's 1850s letters, the United States of America, and this isn't the corporation, it's in the filing cabinet. What I want you guys to see is a raised seal.
Oh, wow.
I have there's a raised seal right here. Bureau of Land Management, Eastern States, Virginia, blah, blah, blah. And it's signed by the land law examiner. And what most people don't understand is that if you want to have that commune, in order to have jurisdiction, you have to have higher title, or they're just going to come shut your freaking commune down.
Wow.
Been going on ever since everybody's trying to have their communes. You're not going to have a real commune unless you just make it and you're under the radar and you don't stir up any trouble. Don't be any hornet's nest at all whatsoever, and you might make it a while, without any, problems.
Intervention.
And then they're going to take one thing from you, and you're just going to be you'll lose your water rights, and then you'll lose then they'll shut your cattle down or whatever.
Right.
Wow.
The reason I have this is because this isn't a land grant or a land patent. Usually it looks different and there's numbers on it, and they were from King George. But if you have one of these and you know how to express them, you know how to properly serve, publicly publish and file them, properly serve via registered mail, not certified. Registered is private. That's the postal system Benjamin Franklin set up. Properly serve, publicly publish, meaning bulletin boards. Those bulletin boards in front of all of these public buildings, they matter. They mean something in the private and in the land of trust. That's publicly publishing. And you can publish things electronically now, newspapers, things like that. I have to publish this. And then you have to file. File would be filing a case or recording it at the recorder's office on the land. You're recording this. So this is actually called a letters patent. All of the swamp lands in the 1850s were the first. All right, so King George had a problem. King George, you had to own land to be an elector. What was happening? All of the bankers, all the plantation owners were the electors. All right, to elect your representatives. If you didn't own land, you couldn't elect, period.
Right.
So now we have people that are fighting back. They're like, no, we're going to rebel. We're going to revolt. This is revolutionary type stuff. We want to elect. King George had to get rid of the Indians as well. They had treaties on this land. It's a sad story. Started moving the Indians, putting them in a corner. They already kicked them off their lands via force. but they were living following these buffalo herds. All the natives would follow these buffalo herds, and they could live fully off of the buffalo herds, nose to tail, for food, shelter, clothing, all that stuff. So what did the United States government do? They killed over 30 million buffalo. So the natives had nowhere to go now and no way to survive, and then forced them onto their reservations.
Yep.
They forced them into contracts.
Yep.
That's what we do with birth certificates. They forced me into that contract at the hospital. I didn't want it.
Right.
That's fraud, medicine, duress. I was under duress. I did not want to sign that.
Yeah.
I would not want to do that. But you need to know that backstory, because after that happened with the Indians, King George was going to give away the wastelands. This is how he was going to, get these people to become electors, get them to calm down, because it's expensive, it's problematic. You have all these people that are going to destroy everything he's trying to control out there. The land grants and land patents allowed people to become electors, and the first lands that he signed over to everyday people where you could apply for were the swamp lands, these unusable lands. So from like Louisiana all the way to Georgia down into Florida, they had these swamp patents. They were called letters patents, and mine signed from Franklin Pierce, 1856. And it literally says, these letters to be made patent, and the seal of the General Land Office to be hereunto, blah, 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 affixed. And it says, fee simple title, affixed, to be made patent, in perpetuity forever. These words are very important. I have them highlighted. So if I ever want to actually submit this in a case as evidence, I can go to the tax assessors. When I go to that tax assessors after I filed my case, I can legally force them to change my land from real estate to private property. That is everything.
Huh.
Now that you've changed the title from real estate to private property, because this is a lodial title.
Right.
This is a higher title, treaty. This is a title protected by treaty law. This is up here, constitutional contracts, our Constitution, statutes, codes, ordinances, and all those stupid little warranty deeds. Warranty. Those are certificates of title. Here's this title, if you know how to use it, is up here. Here's a warranty deed. Warranty deed isn't even a title. It's a certificate of title. Acceptance of a warranty deed. It's all maritime jurisdiction. You don't own your land. You rent it. You're a tenant.
Yeah.
That's why you have to pay taxes on it. It's real estate. If you can change your tax status from real estate to private property, yes, I've got 4 of these bad boys. Yes, I know how to do it. No, I don't want the attention for 1.25 acres.
Right.
But if I get 13 acres on a lake,
Right.
on the trust, and it's already got water and electric out there,
Yeah.
and all my boys work at the local electric company, I can have a commune in no time.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you see how important what I just shared with you is?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do it until you spend your life's work and your life's fortune to do that. And all these people do this stuff, and the local county ordinances and building code and the counties, they come and they ruin everything.
Yeah.
So we've got to learn. And so ultimately, the most important thing that you guys are ever going to see that I really want to do eventually is express land patents and land grants and have higher titles held in trust.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me I can grow pot out there if I want.
Right.
I can tap into this aquifer and I can pump water like Nestle and sell bottled water if I want on my land.
Right.
I don't need a water use permit.
Yeah.
Because you can't even, jurisdictionally, you can't even walk across the land. You can't even step on it. And it really is like that.
Wow.
The guy that teaches that stuff taught the miners out in Oregon. The guy that wrote this book, he would teach the miners out in Oregon. He's a constitutional law professor, how to claim their lands in this manner so they could have mineral rights to mine on their own property that was being stolen from them.
Wow. Wow.
Deep stuff, right?
That's endgame right there, yeah. Private property.
Skip all the bullshit.
Right.
Property so you can be left alone.
Yep. That's the goal.
You can figure out how to travel. Remember, you guys have seen the right to travel stuff.
Yep.
It's true. I know people that it seems like a miserable lifestyle. But say you learn your land, you get your commune, you do everything we just went over, then you learn how to travel accordingly. I have a buddy that does it, and he sued the police station, the sheriffs, and won afterwards. Yeah, he had to sit in the tank. Yes, it was miserable. He has money. he did it out of spite and as a learning process, and he won a decent case himself. Wow. And I'm like, dang, dude, if that's how this really worked. But it was way hard, and it took him 2 years to beat one case.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Wow.
Yeah. But if you learn how to travel, so say you have that, then you learn how to travel in your private capacity, in private property, not engaged in commerce from point A to point B. Yeah. Now you have a commune and you can travel. Yeah. So it's a big deal. Wow. But it's so far-fetched and so freaking hard. It's like, can I just wake up and have a cup of coffee and have a good day?
It's just everything, like, it's doom and gloom. Everyone says it's spooky season. Like, every day is spooky season. There's always some stuff hitting the fan. It's exhausting, but, like, we have to keep doing it for our kids, ultimately, at the end of the day. Like, if there's going to be anything left past the next 5 years anyways. But
there will be. There will be, as long as, like, we talk like this. We share all this stuff. And I truly believe, looking at you guys, it's our generation.
Absolutely.
It's going to make the change. Because we're the first generation. Like, I'm 35. How old are you guys?
She's 28. I'm 38.
I'm 29.
All right, you're 38, 28, 38.
I'm 29. Sorry.
This is a generation where we had the internet brought to us, showed up.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have this gap. It is our generation that's learned to say no, that really woke up. The baby boomers did not wake up. Right. Not even. Our generation was the first generation to catch it, I think. I'm looking at it. You know, we see it. It's like, all right, not only did we catch it, but like, no, I'm not going to go work for $14 an hour. No, there's no incentive to work. Right. They don't leave their mom's basement because of inflation. It takes 4 times as much work to pay for the same thing you bought in 1975.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's like we learned that, and they're like, what is wrong with them? Nothing. They understand there's no incentive.
Right.
They're going where something makes sense.
Right.
And I think we're trying to make our own sense of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of the circuit.
Well, and like you were just saying, I mean, I've seen so many different, people talking about, boomers or even Gen X talking about, why are millennials and why is Gen Z so lazy and why can't they do anything? And well, first of all, Gen Z. I mean, I think
don't loop us in with Gen Z ever.
I think the Tide Pod generation.
I'm just on the cusp of millennial, and I'm like holding on.
Right, but but we didn't have the opportunities available to us like the previous generations did.
No.
Not even close.
At one point, I mean, they were able to afford a house with a single income household, raise a family, and now you need both people to work and you're still paycheck to paycheck. I mean, it's absolutely insane, but it's because it's the whole imprisonment of it, right? It's the whole financial prison of it. We're all stuck in this rat race, and it's just a constant struggle to stay ahead of that next, big thing that's going to cost you a lot of money that you don't see out of nowhere, whether, it's a water heater that breaks or your air conditioning goes out, something happens that all of a sudden now you got to shell out $5-6 grand to fix, or right. And now you're stuck back at having nothing again.
Hey, we chose breastfeeding, and she's still breastfeeding.
Yeah.
She's at home not working. Single family.
Yeah.
We had to change everything. We don't go out to eat. We don't go out to eat anymore. We don't go on vacations. But our life is pretty awesome. It's like living in an Airbnb, and it's like, wait a second. We didn't build that $425,000 house that we had plans for in the middle of this yard. We've got this barn in the back of the lot, and we're so glad we did it.
Right.
Because no one can tell us what to do, and I'm not a slave to a job that I could say, that I could say bye to.
Right.
If I had that mortgage, I don't have a mortgage. If I had that mortgage, a big old house right out there, I would be like scary stuff with her breastfeeding. And so it's like, we sacrifice a lot, but in the end, once you get used to it, it's like, holy crap, I didn't need all that.
Right, exactly.
I didn't need it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like we keep saying, that's our whole end goal, is just that financial freedom, that being that self-dependent. where we get to grow all of our own stuff. We can grow our own food. We have a chicken farm in the backyard.
I can homeschool kids.
Right,
the whole thing.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes,
and
yes.
so that's the whole end goal. And I think especially our generation, that's the new goal, right?
Yeah,
That's the new
it is.
American dream, is to get away from all of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Stay in the country, but just get away from all the madness and the rat race and everything else.
Yeah.
And
Because it's never
what I
ending.
did. That's
Yeah.
what we did. I mean,
Yeah.
there's chickens right there. I didn't
Yeah.
grow up with chickens. I grew up swinging baseball bats and playing soccer.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
me
I've
too.
got chickens in my backyard. I forage citrus for fun. It's
Right.
fun family outing
Yeah.
to go to all these woods. I'm like, wait a second. There's freaking tangerines everywhere
Yeah.
right where in
Right.
Florida, you know. But
Right.
like, growing your food.
That's so
By the way,
cool.
there's so many freaking tricks to growing food. I feel like everybody
Yeah.
does it so hard. It's like, I'm like, why does everybody grow everything that you have to keep replanting? Like,
Right.
you just put a bush in the ground and it's there all forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and it's the same thing. I'm so confused at like why people, I gotta have my collards, I gotta have my lettuces. I'm like, no, then you gotta go plant it right after you pick it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I make a giant bowl of salad from the water comes off the barn, falls down, and I can pick longevity or Okinawan spinach. They're these big bushes.
Yeah.
And
Ooh.
they keep growing back daily.
Mhm.
I go out there and pick a whole bowl full of it, or like soak it in broth, make a soup out of it, and it's still there. I don't have to regrow it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't understand the whole, I don't know, sorry, lettuce can be pretty and profitable. I don't have time to do that. This is smarter.
Yeah. Well, that's like us.
Smarter, not harder.
Yeah, that's like us. We planted some citrus trees in the backyard just to have something going.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
have something going. They're not fruiting yet, but
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it takes freaking forever.
yeah.
Yeah.
First year they sleep. First year they sleep. Second year they creep the roots. Third year they leap.
No.
Maybe.
Oh, we're 6 months in, so
But we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm like, we've only been together a year and a half. You can only accomplish so much at one time.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's great.
yeah, I'm just so good to talk to you and to get your perspective on everything, because I
yeah,
think
so
you're very
much
much living a
information.
life that we look forward
Yeah.
to doing ourselves, and it's
Yeah.
just inspirational to see you doing it and to hear all
Right.
of your knowledge. It's just,
It's doable.
Okay.
you know so much.
You guys can do it because you already know so much. When you know so much,
Right.
you'll immediately have the passion to be like, okay, this isn't that bad because it matters. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Right.
Like, ew, icky bugs, ew, dirty chicken poop. Like, my wife doesn't want to touch the chicken poop, and I don't blame her, but I'm like, oh, it's worth it because, like, food costs, like, there's so many eggs. Like,
Right.
I know you guys
Yeah.
do it, and you'd end up loving it, and people
Yeah.
develop systems.
I would do
They're
it.
organized, OCD, like
Yeah.
they make
Uh-huh.
the best farmers in permaculture. You know, techies make great freaking
Yeah.
permaculture people. By the way, I'm noticing this.
Huh.
I'm like, because they create systems. They
Yeah.
create little circuits
Right.
in their yard. It's
How funny.
whatever their desk looks like, their freaking gardens end up looking like. And it's
Yeah.
like, I see, and then I'm like, dang, I gotta go clean my room.
I love it. Love it. Well,
It's been a
Spenser.
pleasure.
Yes. And where can people find you? What are your handles so they know where to go?
On TikTok, I've almost got 100,000 followers on TikTok, which will be cool. Can you like make tips or something there at 100,000?
I think you can accept gifts, which are
Okay.
like payment. Yeah.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun because
Yeah.
like, I've spent so much time there, and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
as you guys know, I've got things I got to tend to. I'm a one-man show,
Right.
truck full of tools. Like I'm just trying to learn it. Get out there, and get I'm just trying to make cash and like make this actual dream happen.
Right.
Right.
And so I do get on TikTok, Spenser from Florida, SPENSER from Florida. There's like 94 or 95,000 followers there right now. That's where I
Awesome.
spend a lot of time. And Instagram, Spenser.Bahr, SPENSER.BAHR. So Instagram and TikTok, people can find me. I do podcasts with Dr. Narco Longo with Old World Florida a lot. He's super popular. He's a talented guy. I really appreciate him in a lot of ways, but gosh, he could go a whole different direction than I want to go. But I'm there a lot as well. And people are like, hey, I saw you on Old World Florida at the grocery store. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, how bad was last
Which episode?
Exactly, because sometimes these young guns, they'll say whatever they want. It can get raunchy, and it's not raunchy isn't my style. Like,
Right.
I like this.
Right.
You can But like, I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
I'll talk to anybody. I'll talk to anybody usually, as long as they're not mean or nasty. And
Yeah.
thank you guys for talking to me. I've been looking forward to seeing you guys. Love your color schemes. I like your voices. Your audio is great.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
your
good.
voices
that.
are also enjoyable to listen to.
Oh, we
Good
appreciate
to know.
that.
After
The
editing
soothing
for
voices.
hours, you're like, oh, my voice.
Well, maybe it's because of all the editing too, but you guys like your voice and your voice, they complement each other. They're so different, but they complement each other in a way that it's very pleasant. You guys are really good. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Our
We
God-given
appreciate that.
voices.
Yep.
God bless. Well, thank you, Spencer, so much.
Thank you, Spencer.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we are back.
We are back.
How did y'all like the siege of information?
Yeah,
What do
that
you
was
call
a
it?
lot.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff, like, I knew what he was talking about, but then there was other stuff where, like, I didn't know. It was way deeper than any level that I've gone on that topic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You
But
know,
it still clicks.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. He put it all out in layman's terms where
yeah.
it's easy to understand. And if you
Right.
don't understand, it's easy to look up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
gave some great sources. I
Yeah.
just think he's a plethora of knowledge. So
Yeah.
we'll put all of...
He's kind of living like kind of the life we want to be
I
living.
know. I was like, dude's an inspiration. Like,
I know.
you know, and just so humble about it. So
I know.
it was really great to talk with him. And we are looking forward to doing more collaborations throughout the year, like we talked about. So
Yeah.
really cool stuff. I'll leave all of his links to his social media in the bio here, or the description.
Yeah.
So you can go follow him. My favorite is the way he intros the videos.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Spencer from Florida.
Yeah,
I love it every time.
Well, then how he introed
It's
ours.
great branding. But what a wonderful guy, and what a great conversation. I just kind of forget what it's like to talk with people for that long. Like, that's not a thing that you really do much anymore, you know?
Well, like, I mean,
Hours
we
long
literally
conversations.
could have stayed on the phone with him for like 10 hours.
We were on the phone with him before we even started.
Yeah.
And he was talking about all this stuff. And Tavis was like, okay, hold on.
I was like, hold on, dude.
Let us send you the video
Like, we got to
invite.
record this.
We got to get this all on camera.
I was like, this is gold. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold
Chill
on,
out,
back
chill. So awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And next up, we are going to be talking about...
Man, we are going to be talking about Internet of Bodies, digital currency, and
vaccines.
vaccines, the mRNA vaccines
Just vaccines
in general.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, vaccines as a whole are bad.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't know what the Internet of Bodies is, man, is that a rabbit hole?
Yeah.
Look into that a little bit.
We talked about it in... Was it You're Being Brainwashed?
We talked about it in one of them.
I'm going to look right now to reference.
Hi there.
Hi
that
there.
Video, yeah.
Yeah, we did put that in there
Yeah.
somewhere. Okay, let me go back and see. We talked about that in transhumanism.
It was transhumanism.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have an episode I'll link in the description as well called Transhumanism, and it talks about Neuralink from
That's
Elon
episode
Musk.
10, right? That's episode 10.
That is episode 10. Yep.
Yeah.
We talk a little bit about Internet of Bodies and
It's
other
one of my
technological
favorite episodes that we've done.
breakthroughs. Yeah. Well, because when we heard about this at first, we were like,
Yeah, it's
freaked out.
and kind of like Spencer did tonight. Like, it connected a lot of dots.
yeah.
Like, there was a lot of stuff that I already thought, like, okay, well, how are they going to do this? How are they going to do
Right.
that?
Or
And
why is this important?
Man, that little rabbit hole gives you a lot of information. So we're
Yeah.
going to touch base a little bit more on that, but how
Yeah,
it
how
has
it
to
plays
do
in.
with everything moving forward with the Agenda 2030 agenda. Agenda 2030 agenda.
We have reached the end of the night, ladies and gents.
Yeah.
Words aren't coming anymore. But yes, we're very excited for that. So we'll see y'all soon. Before the wedding, we'll have it out.
Which one? Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. This
My
one will
pledge.
probably be out, Thursday or Friday this week. We'll make
see.
announcements.
I don't know.
I mean, it's not like they'll know until this is released. And they can
I'm probably
listen
just
to
going to
it,
cut this part out anyways. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to follow us on socials. Per usual, always have those linked below. We are starting a revolution here, so get involved.
Revolution of the mind, right?
A revolution of the mind.
Let people become free thinkers, breaking people away.
Yep.
You know. Hey, and go check out some merch.
Yeah, I was just going to plug the merch.
Oh,
be your local truth dealer, baby.
Should we do a code? We'll do a code.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's going to be our new thing. If you make it to the end of the episode, and we'll have to scatter it around because people will start to catch on and just flip to the end. Yeah. But we're going to start putting a promo code in all of our episodes that you can use on the website for merchandise.
Let's do Spenser.
Yeah.
We'll do Spenser as the promo code for this one. 25% off.
All caps, Spenser with an S.
SPENSER.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'll be our code.
Yeah, we'll put it in there. 25% off entire store.
Yeah. So put that little code in at checkout. Get yourself some money off.
You know, and every dollar counts in this economy, you know, because Bidenomics and at work.
Yeah, I miss Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all.
Hey, he's talking about bringing $2 gas back and
getting rid of the income tax.
Yeah.
Amen. That is my vote right there.
Yeah.
We wouldn't need all these
income tax.
Yeah, we don't need extra surplus money or anything if you just give us the money that we make by working.
Right. I think I paid like $20,000 in taxes, just federal last year.
Yes. Imagine if we got $40,000 back.
Yeah.
That's life-changing money for a year at least.
Yeah.
But yeah. So everybody pray that Donald Trump gets into office. So go get you some merch and be a part of the Anti-Woke Society. Be a local truth dealer with us. Let
people know they're a pawn in the game they know nothing about.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We live in this stuff. It's very cozy and comfy. And wash as well, too.
I sport it everywhere I go.
Yeah. Yeah. You get a sweatshirt, though, make sure to tie these into a thicker knot because they love to go inside the hood.
You know, people come up and like, hey, I like the hoodie. And I'm like, hey, thanks. Untetheredmindsmedia.com/store.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We are going to go for listening, not watching. Yeah, we really need to go. We're getting tired. Thank you guys. We will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.